The only way to...
It's 1 minute past 6 o'clock. Good morning. It's the 5th of December 2019. Well, it has been raining in Nairobi almost all night. It has subsided for a bit early this morning. We pray that it keeps this way so that at least people can get work. Good morning, Ndu.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah, it did rain all night. I think we also have reports from the weatherman, and in this case, combined efforts from the government also to let us know that, folks got to be careful. Apart from that, journeys out of the city of Nairobi are probably going to be delayed because of what the roads look like as a result of the rain. Major highway that's used every day, Nairobi, Naivasha, Nakuru. The bridge is having some problems as of this morning. They're not really sure how long it's going to hold. The river, likely is probably going to burst its banks, as it were. So, I mean, it's everywhere. It's
if it continues, what it also means is that Nairobi may be cut off from from Nakuru. It may even cut off from Mombasa. It may be cut off. Simple.
Right.
When roads become impassable, of course, the trouble area, the trouble spots. For example, the area around Sultan Hamoud.
Yes.
That floods and the road actually gets cut off.
Yes, it does.
The Met Department has tweeted and they've said, don't forget to allow extra time if you will be traveling on Thursday. A period of persistent rains is expected in most places today.
Right, so we had rain all night, and what they're saying is that we're probably going to have it all day as well. And the thing is, where we're looking at consistent light rain is actually worse than the heavy downpour that you'll see. So if it's through the day, light rain like that is what they're most worried about, interestingly enough.
Now, the soil absorbs it steadily, but it absorbs it, and then it gets saturated.
Right.
Then that soil becomes loose. So it parts ways. But it's not just the soil. Even this tarmac that you see, you'd be amazed at the power of water. Water can erode that tarmac seriously. Water, especially when it rains and then it sits on it. Even that very tarmac, the very composition of it becomes loose.
Loose.
Yes.
Right.
So we are not, this isn't something that is going to be pleasant.
We're not out of the woods yet.
No, far from it.
And the Met Department is basically saying, look, this is continuing. While we're hearing the government saying it's contained.
Wow. Good morning, City, by the way.
Well, good morning also to you, by the way.
Yes, how are you, by the way?
At Nico, at least.
Nico, at least.
Okay.
Nico, at least.
Nico, at least, yes.
Take a look at the headlines. So, the ANC leader, Musalia Mudavadi, has authored a book.
Oh, yes.
And the book is out. And, of course, yesterday, we saw it had formed part of the headline on The Nation. Today, it's in the headline of the Standard. The Raila I Know.
It's supposed to be a memoir.
It's a memoir, right?
But you can't have a memoir about somebody else.
You can feature them prominently.
This one it's a whole chunk. That
I'm sure he has reasons.
Yeah.
Well, if he's talking about his memoir in his political career, and this one has featured in more than 10 or 15 years of your 30-year career, then, clearly he deserves a third of the page of the book.
Okay.
The ANC leader devotes a sizable chunk of his new book to Raila Odinga and speaks about political deceit and consciousness, mobilization, erratic pronouncements, and his focus on the bigger picture.
Please remember that when such a memoir is written, you have editors, you have people who actually write it for you, help you write it.
Yep.
You tell them, but they write it. And if they are professional writers, they will tell you that certain individuals, when featured or when you're giving excerpts of your publication, the mention of certain individuals, certain places, certain events would promote the book.
Would sell it even.
Yes, it would propel the book.
Of course.
Because then people want to read.
Right.
They want to know.
Peeling back the mask comes to
Yes, exactly.
Miguna's book.
Yes.
Right? Because it promised to bear it all on his relationship with the then Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Of course, the book really sold. So the autobiography by Musalia Mudavadi is called Soaring Above the Storms of Passion, Musalia Mudavadi, an autobiography. So thrice drawn by fate to work with the enigma of Kenyan politics, the Mani National Congress leader has finally unfurled the complex political personality of ODM leader Raila Odinga. In the autobiography, Musalia describes the inner workings of Raila from his initial cooperation days of post-1997 general election to the bombshell handshake politics of last year. In Mudavadi's eyes, Raila comes out as deceitful in his political dealings, yet susceptible to similar games against him, blind to immediate concerns, yet astute in rallying people around him, prone to sudden pronouncements, yet focused on the bigger picture, often with him at the center.
He's a nice guy, isn't he, Mudavadi, generally speaking? That's his problem. It seems, comes across as too nice to be in politics, I think. So be an interesting read. Is he accusing Raila or is he quite neutral about this?
I think it's quite neutral. He's balancing it all out. He's just talking about how his perception, his views on Raila. How he views. Of course, he can't be completely. He can't go all out on.
Why not?
him.
This is it. Why
Politics. Politics. Because
I don't think he's cut out for politics.
there's still an opportunity for you to actually. He acknowledges the fact that Raila is very, very good at rallying people around him. So, of course, if you want to continue playing the political game, you expect also to come back to Raila at some point.
Well, let's see. On the front page of the Standard, the principals switch off their phones as parents seek vacancies. So there seems to be a bit of a mess, and we'll be looking at this later on today in terms of the selection for children to then go to secondary schools in the future. Future being January. Head teachers are grappling with growing demand by parents seeking to transfer their children who are selected to join far-flung secondary schools. It emerged yesterday that some parents are uncomfortable with the idea of sending their children to institutions in distant counties. Basically, what has happened is that with this algorithm, as CT explained to us the other day, or the formula with which selection is being made, is that then you have children who are probably living in one area of the country being taken to day schools in another area of the country.
It begins with the choices they make.
It begins with the choices they make, and then the algorithm doesn't always give you the first selection.
The choices
that you
enable
made.
you to choose something like 6 schools, and then they're categorized.
Right.
And there's national, there's county, there's all these things.
Right.
So, and if you have any system of selection, usually it begins with your first choice.
Right. Well, we have a candidate who sat KCP exams in Kisumu has been admitted to a school in Nyeri. A candidate from Nairobi selected to join a school in Busia. A candidate from Kakamega County was selected to join a school in Taita Taveta.
But do they tell you whether those schools were selected
national
by
schools.
them or they were just given randomly?
Well, we're going to go through it later and see actually the process that they chose, and then we'll see the process through which they chose, and then what may have happened or not happened.
And these are day schools.
Yes.
No, it doesn't say they're day schools, does it?
Yes, it does.
It just talks about the schools.
Who's that? KPC being there?
But
Well, I think the problem came
they
about.
have their classes during the daytime.
Yes, during the they
No,
had-
City, in that they're not boarding schools.
the problem came because they were not boarding schools, and that
They
was why they
are
were thrown
boarding
into an
schools, I'm sure.
uncomfortable position. You're sure?
But more in monitor. But then, you know,
Eric wants to be sure.
You want? Yeah, you can want to be sure. that's
this
fine.
issue of
Give him
people
time.
complaining
Okay.
as well is not new. So we've seen it in the last couple of years, especially when the number of national schools was increased from the initial, there used to be 17, now we have over 70 national schools. National school basically means that you can have students from across the country. So you'll find that a school that you did not think was national, which is based in Busia, is where your child has been, admitted, and you're in Mombasa. But the whole concept of national school is people from around the country will go to. In Alliance, it's not just people from Kiambu.
You'll be
find
surprised
people
that
from Turkana.
You'll be surprised
in
that the majority of
Alliance.
people making these elections don't understand what you've just said, and that's what we'll be talking about in a short while. But
The water minister, Simon Chelugui, was grilled over the stalled 29.5 billion shilling Itare Dam yesterday. Spent 8 hours at the DCI headquarters.
there's another dam.
There are many dams.
Damn.
Yep. He was summoned to the DCI in Nairobi, where he faced detectives about probing the project for more than 8 hours. He wrote what insiders termed as a long statement on what he knows about the matter. It was the first time the CS was facing the detectives who've been gathering evidence on the case for the past 5 months. He's in the past denied any wrongdoing. This is one of another dam, another issue, another story, another new day. And then, of course, we have the issue of the president says enough is enough. Shegana. Enough is enough. Uhuru tells rivals. He was speaking in Gatondo in Kiambu County yesterday. And he promised fireworks in the new year against those politicking and dismissing the BBI report.
He was not a happy man yesterday, was he?
In fact, he even said, I'm a little bit...
Ticked off,
yes.
to put it mildly.
At the likes of Moses Kuria and so on.
There's a story here. Widow charged with husband's murder has been freed. A widow charged with the murder of her husband by drowning him in a swimming pool in Watamu, Malindi 4 years ago has been acquitted for lack of evidence. The prosecution through State Counsel Vincent Monda had theorized that she and Jacob, now the woman is called Amina Shiraz, and the husband was called Jimmy Baburam. And the prosecution has said that she had collaborated with the fugitive American Jacob Schmalz. So the prosecution was alleging that Amina and Jacob, her alleged lover, and collaborated to kill her husband at the Medina Palms in 2015 in order to get his 50 million life insurance policy and vast business empire and properties.
So she got away with it. Well, sorry. So she was
She's been acquitted
found
for lack
not
of
guilty,
evidence.
but she's got the money, of course.
Yeah.
No, we don't know. I mean, she just got
The
acquitted.
insurance
Now, obviously, she's the dependent,
beneficiary.
the beneficiary. Yes, right. So she
Next of kin.
next of kin is a word, right?
Yes.
So she's likely to get it. Of course, page 2 of the Standard, you have it there, City.
I do have it. And it's floods everywhere. And more floods to come. But what I wanted to talk about was something very interesting. We've talked about gender-based violence, and we've talked about the ever-increasing rape cases, but this is an odd one. This is a man jailed for 20 years for raping an 84-year-old.
How old is the man?
20. Well, no, he was jailed for 20 years, right?
Yes, he will serve 20 years, but they don't actually tell you how old the man is. But if I'm to go by the picture, this man is probably around 30. That's his grandmother.
What?
Yes. So that's how serious some of these cases get. But the issue of water, you see, some of these places, like the pictures that you see on page 2, those are areas that are accustomed to flooding. Flooding is not something that they consider to be new. It comes, they move, and they go back.
This is Nyatike, Nyando,
Nyatike is new.
Kakola,
Nyatike is new.
Ombaka village in Kisumu.
No, Kakola is in Nyando. Gets flooded. Nyatike, it's new. Nyatike is in Migori County, far flung. It's actually one of the furthest points in Migori County. It's not known. It's not usual for it to flood. So this is how it tells you about the severity of this flooding.
The situation.
Yes.
This picture shows a girl preparing porridge at the Kabuto village in Nyatike after they were displaced from their home in flood. So, of course, they went and made makeshift fireplace where they were trying to prepare a meal for the day.
Again, this isn't unusual in some of these areas that are accustomed to flooding.
Right.
Yes, it's just that this particular episode, unfortunately, has engulfed the entire nation. So it's getting center stage attention.
There's also this story of the Mombasa magistrate who had been accused of...
Chief magistrate.
Chief magistrate.
Yes.
So the DPP has lost a bid to charge a Mombasa magistrate over the loss of narcotics worth 30 million shillings in September. Besides quashing the prosecution, Justice Ruben Nyakundi ordered the DPP and DCI to pay the magistrate 2 million shillings for damages for violating the rights of the Mombasa principal magistrate, Edgar Kagoni. Justice Nyakundi described the purported charges as misplaced, ordered the respondents to pay the magistrate 2 million for infringing on his rights. Remember, this case had grabbed the national headlines when the principal magistrate was arrested.
Yes.
Of course, when he went to court, and the Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association also weighed in on the matter. They joined in as interested parties, so they helped to prosecute the case for him as well. They defend him in court, and
it's good to have such friends, isn't it?
Get you acquitted of the charges, and also get you some compensation.
Oh, fantastic. Africa's taking center stage, the talks, climate talks that are taking place in Madrid right now. And there's a demand to be recognized as a continent with special needs, and it has taken center stage at this year's climate change conference in Madrid. The position has been bolstered by African civil society organizations calling on stakeholders to recognize the special circumstances and needs of the continent, which is most hardest hit and the least prepared for the adverse impacts of climate change. So, with what we see now, the floods happening in the eastern part and eastern, central, and a part of the western parts of the continent, they're saying, look, we are the hardest hit because of this. And so now we need to actually be granted special status. So those talks are going on. They say the continent should be accorded special status to enable countries access funds as grants and not loans. Africa needs support to deal with the devastation of climate change, they said. That'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
The taxman is at it again.
Yay!
Yes. People who run taxi services that use online digital platforms are now going to be required to pay tax. Just in case they thought that they escaped it, no one escapes the taxman.
These are the Ubers and Taxifys.
Yes, they are now going to be required.
And Little Cab.
Remember, we were talking about, we didn't talk about litigation, but we're talking about government parastatals. Well, somebody has gone to court to challenge the hiring of the new MD for Kenya Power. And oddly enough, when there was this purge and the former MD, Mr. Tarus, was asked to leave his job, this is one of the few people who survived. He was a general manager in charge of procurement, supply chain, whatever they call it, but it's procurement essentially. So that matter has now gone to court, and it is on an integrity issue. Yes, and
This is the Kenya Power one.
Kenya Power,
Not Kenya Pipeline.
no, Kenya Power, and the person who's taking them to court is called Maureen Jambura, and they say that these complaints arise from things he's done in the past. He's been in the firm for over 30 years. This will make interesting reading.
So basically, we're questioning the integrity of the person who's been
Of the
appointed.
person, yes, and they say that given that he was in that job, there are things he did in the past that should disqualify him from taking this top position within the firm.
Bernard Goge has worked for that company for 30 years.
30 years, yes. And when there was that purge, he survived it.
Oh, and the issue was about procurement.
The issue is about everything, yes.
So
But procurement is the heart of it, and he survived it.
I see. Remember, you can download the standard e-paper app from Google Play Store and Apple App Store, and for just one subscription fee, you get to access all of Standard Group's publications. Today being Thursday, of course, you get to access the Pullout, which is Home and Away, talks about issues in the real estate and building and construction sector. Of course, that's the standard e-paper app from Google Play Store, Apple App Store. Download it today. Good morning. It's 18 minutes past 6 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation.
Spice and everything nice. Alright, okay.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
It's 19 after 6. Good morning, and thank you very much for tuning in to the situation. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. This is Spice FM, broadcasting from Nairobi. We are in Malindi on 97.7, in Nyeri on 90.9, Eldoret 96.7, 96.0 in Nakuru, 87.9, Mombasa 102.5 in Kisumu, and of course we're live streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE, and also on our website www.spicefm.co.ke. We also live stream on YouTube, which is our channel is Spice FM KE. Join the conversation on Twitter at Spice FM KE, and the hashtag is The Situation Room. Enough is enough now, Angry Uhuru tells rivals. That's what he did yesterday. This is the headline on the papers this morning. In fact, the Standard, the People Daily, the Nation, which other paper? The Star. All of them will have this story.
But Eric, it isn't the first time he has said this. Such a pronouncement has been made before.
He makes it all the time.
Yes. Why do we assume that this will be different?
So basically what the president was doing, just to give a background, is he was attending a meeting yesterday at in Mangu. And this was the launch of a new hospital wing by the Mangu Catholic Mission. where he attended it. Of course, he launched it, and then he started speaking and addressing the people, and he went to the off-the-cuff remarks, and he switched to Kikuyu, and he was speaking out to the audience in Kikuyu, and he started talking about the politicians who've been politicking, especially on the matter of BBI and peace and development. Particularly, you could tell he's talking about the leadership in Mount Kenya. And he said, some of these leaders, before the BBI, we launched the BBI report, they went around the country making noise about one particular issue. And then after we launched the BBI and they realized that issue is not there, now they're going around the country, bringing about a different issue on the BBI. And they keep making this kind of remarks all the time. Are they assuming that you people cannot read? Are they assuming that you people are stupid, you can't read for yourselves? Absolutely not. You're all intelligent people. You know that you want peace, you want security, you want quiet, you want to be able to live your life anywhere on any day. You want to go and vote and exercise your right in voting and go back home. So he was saying basically, these leaders, a time will come very soon when I'll come round again and we'll have a conversation about them and about what we need to do about such kind of leadership. He basically said, and I'm sorry the way I've ranted because I just got carried away, but you understand where I'm coming from. And when I was listening to that speech, what I heard is throughout the speech at various intervals, you'd hear people clapping, you'd hear people laughing, you'd hear people cheering him on. And the kind of narrative that we've been fed lately by some quarters is that, Uhuru and Central Kenya have parted ways. He has lost grip of Central Kenya. That if you went to speak to the people would actually not even turn up for his meetings. Or people would jeer him or walk away when he starts talking politics. Or they would stand up to him and ask him, why exactly do we have these problems that we're having and yet you're the president? We didn't see that yesterday. He had a similar meeting that he attended for the Akorino sect at Kasarani a couple of months back. You remember? And he spoke again in Kikuyu, and he was talking about the same kind of stuff. Leaders in Mount Kenya who were going around making political noise instead of focusing on development, and people were clapping and cheering him. He invited people to Sagana, the Sagana State Lodge, and he spoke to them and he said, look guys, we need to focus on development. Nobody jeered, nobody walked out. They make noise afterwards, but they didn't walk out. And this morning I'm saying, because of all this kind of situations, I think President Uhuru Kenyatta has Central locked. He still has full control of Central Kenya.
I'm not fighting you this morning, Eric. Politically, I agree with you in terms of power. Very interestingly, of course, some Tanga MPs are in Naivasha, went there yesterday for a meeting. So there's still some sort of, I don't want to call it dissent because it's not criticism. I think it's political alignment. And what you have is people eyeing 2022 in terms of rewards and appointments, perhaps. And they've placed their bet on Ruto. So it's not support for Ruto per se, it's individual interests, of course, that they're pursuing. And of course, there's rumors that money emanates from Karen and they've been paid. So how long their support and loyalty will last is also questionable. It's been quoted that Kikuyus are for rent, but not for sale, which means, yes, they might run along with you, but will they be there through, to the end? Although having said that, because some of these MPs, the Tanga MPs, the utterances they then make at their rallies and their crowds, they can influence people's opinions. So the saddest thing about this is that it's going to affect the BBI. It's now going to be clouded and shrouded in political messaging. That's what we're seeing, where you have to take one side or the other. I myself wasn't for a referendum. Of course, what's being proposed here now by the Kweleke team is a popular initiative, so not quite a referendum as such. So it's a tricky one because people will now side with the personality as opposed to what's right for them and the process. So sadly, the BBI will be subjected and reduced down to political messaging from what I'm seeing.
But you're saying that the popular initiative would not necessarily be a referendum? It will be. A popular initiative will
lead to
yes.
a referendum.
Yes.
I am silent deliberately because I'm pondering this issue. You see, what we're discussing here is the interpretation of politicians and their utterances and their activities. and what it actually means. A politician may say something, and it sounds, and on the surface it appears to mean one thing, and yet it could mean something completely different. When someone switches to their mother tongue, as we call it, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was famous for it in a rally. Remember the location, okay? And by the way, you failed to mention JICA, the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, was part of this particular building. Yes, they helped in put this up.
Right.
I remember I was saying
For only 80 million.
Yes, for only 80 million. They're usually quiet about it, but there it is. What exactly do they mean when you have politicians ranting and raving, and some of them really overtly speaking against the president? What do they mean? You may think they're actually against the president, and yet they know that it's when you speak against such a person that you gain mileage. When you are known, how did one Moses Kuria gain notoriety? It's the things he says. He's outrageous. That's what he does. How is it that we know about Miguna? He's outrageous. People talk to the point where you start asking yourself, are they stable mentally? Now, what you may ask as much as you like, but the truth of the matter is the person gets notoriety and they get to be known. Now, a politician would know that this is what you need. You actually want to be known.
So it's a game.
It is a game. It is even choreographed. Like some of the utterances that characterize the two groups that we talk about, Kieleweke and Tangatanga. It's choreographed because someone will say this and then the other person will say this, and you'll wait for an opportunity in such a gathering and someone will come and say this. It's choreographed.
What is choreographed? Sorry.
Imepangwa. Meaning
No. I understand what it means. I'm asking what has been choreographed.
utterances.
Choreographed
Utterance.
by who?
I wouldn't know, but it's clearly choreographed because it
I think
can't.
it's somebody who's just basically controlling these
Yes,
puppets.
it can't happen that over a certain period of time there's certain utterances which seem very similar on a certain issue. Then another one is changed the similarity on the same. It can't be that it's coincidence. No, it's choreographed.
It's people like Nyeri, strategists, who are sitting
Hold on, I'm
behind
trying
the
to
scenes
ask-
and just thinking,
No.
guys, let's move this conversation in this direction.
Yes, so this is what we. This
Well,
is
there's a
sort of-
desired objective, and there's ways to get there, generally speaking, with politics. But what exactly is choreographed? These conversations, the president warning Jubilee? Because, yes, it is planned.
No,
What do you
I
mean by
am talking
choreographed?
generally about politicians and their utterances. I'm not talking about the president.
So I think, for example, like let's talk about the BBI, the before and after
Yes,
conversation.
yes,
The before
yes.
conversation was if this thing comes and it takes away the power of the president, it brings out the parliamentary system and all, we are going to shoot it down.
And you had many people saying it. It
And
wasn't
it
one
went
person.
and it carried the day.
Yes.
And then, of course, after is now it must, if it goes to referendum, it's going to flop. It
Yes.
must go to parliament.
Well,
Yes.
that's true. And
That's
even
the big
from
conversation.
the point of handshake in March, you saw people saying, what is this all about? We don't even know what this is. We were not consulted, etc., etc. A few months down the line, the very same people were saying, in the spirit of the handshake, we want Kenya to go forward. Same people on the same issue that they had a totally different view just months before. And then you see the same people now going forward. When it comes to things like election, we take the Kibra election, for example. There are very many different views, again, from the same people. And on the day of, the day just before the election and even after, the same people on platforms now sharing platforms. So I kind of do agree that you'll have different views, different things being said, and you're not really sure who is saying what or what exactly is meant, because you have the same people of different views in a very short period of time. So it doesn't really allow you to make any kind of it doesn't allow you to make a decision in terms of where your thinking would be going based on what they had to say.
It's like
But
the-
what is consistent is that the
change.
factions will remain the same. And that's when the president is actually talking about there is a faction that is completely, constantly talking against what I am saying. It's clear. Whatever that faction is, whoever is leading them and choreographing their speeches and all,
Whoever the factions involved doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. There is a faction, right? And that's what the president is saying. You know what? There are guys who have constantly, been going around and creating this kind of atmosphere and feeling that in fact, he was even saying they think I don't have a brain. They think I don't know. I know exactly what's happening here on a daily basis.
But is that going to change the sentiments on the ground? Because Ruto is gaining
sentiments?
traction with these MPs. Let's be
How is
completely
he
honest.
gaining traction?
Whose sentiments?
In terms of the sentiments on the ground, in terms of the voters' sentiments, the electorate, he's gaining traction. Okay, it's an interesting one. Let's look at the genesis of this rift and how Tanga Tanga and the other faction, Kewaleke, came along. Basically, Ruto, of course, started his campaigns, his 2022 campaigns, immediately after 2017, so to speak. And by this, I mean the electioneering mode kept going. He was going from different sort of constituencies, different areas, and rallying support and getting a lot of media publicity as well, and just keeping people excited. Now, I think Uhuru's approach, or the president's, His Excellency, his approach was development. Let's focus on development. We can't keep the country in a perpetual electioneering mode. And he warned, or those utterances from him saying, "Iku tanga tanga sayote." Now, Ruto very strategically embraced that, and they became the Tanga Tanga team. Of course, for Ruto to penetrate certain areas, he's going to need some help from
Foot
different
soldiers.
MPs, absolutely.
Yep.
And those MPs made way. And what happened at some point, because the president was so focused on development, there was the Big Four agenda going on, he wasn't going around the country sort of with political rallies and so forth. So people felt there was a vacuum, of which there wasn't. It's just because one person was actually politicking while the other wasn't. And this, I feel, is where the rift came from. And as Uhuru himself has said, he's never said that he's not going to support Ruto, but it shouldn't have been about politics. We should have been developing the country, of which I completely agree with. But that's the genesis of the rift. Now, he needed his foot soldiers, this is Ruto, in order to penetrate Central and have these rallies organized to appear as guest of honor and so on.
So here's a question. Has the ground shifted in Central?
Has the ground shifted?
Yes.
No, I mean, when at the end of the day, no, they'll come back.
So then Ruto is not gaining any kind of traction in Central?
At the moment in terms of talk, but that's not permanent. It's very fluid. In terms of talk, you'll see people very excited about Ruto. Understandably, he has been campaigning.
We've seen
Do you
Vox Pops, people
understand?
being asked about the BBI, and they say, well, if our deputy president tells us it's good, and these are people in Central, in Nyeri, saying if our deputy president tells us it's good, then we're going to support him because our man is DP Ruto.
And that's the sad thing. It's been subjected to political messaging. We no longer understand what's in the BBI. It's now the person behind the BBI.
Always going to be the politics.
Sadly.
27 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads.
Your intelligent talk every morning. Done right.
Utawala, we had at 3 a.m. people were still in traffic from the night before. So we're looking at about 6 to 7 hours of traffic trying to get in and out of the Utawala area. And that now will affect areas of Mbakasi coming off Mombasa Road this morning already today. And I don't know what it is, but we have another accident just after the Multimedia University heading to town. So it's jam-packed already as you touch Langata Road. So Magadi Road leading all through to Langata is already chock-blocked at 6:30. Lower Kabete, we do have another accident. So trying to get into Westlands from the Spring Valley petrol station area, you're being asked to please drive carefully as you're approaching that area or leaving that area because ahead of you has been an accident. All right, so if you're coming off of Rongai, again, you have that issue. Thika Road is wet all the way because of the rains, obviously. So vehicles are moving at snail's pace, which is a good thing at this point because you want to be careful. Jogo Road is building up because of the traffic, again, because of the wet roads. So we'll see what happens there. Sabaki or Mombasa Road, a trailer is in the ditch and it has hit another vehicle. So an accident there is going to affect traffic. Let's take a look at what's happening in about half an hour. We'll let you know. Keep it here, but please be careful.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
President Kenyatta was in Mangu, Kiambu County yesterday, and he spoke to the audience there in Kikuyu, and he's, talking about the local and regional politics. national politics with a regional focus, basically. And you're saying, there's some leaders who are going around the country politicking and making so much noise. Before we launched the BBI report, they were going around the country campaigning against it with one thing or the other. Now, after we've launched it, they're still going around the country talking about something else. These people assume that we are all stupid, we don't know what we are doing. Of course, we can read for ourselves and make our own determination and our own choices. I'll be coming back to you shortly, maybe in the new year, and then we'll discuss this and see what to do about them. And I'm using this and also going by the Sagana meeting and the other one where he was at Kasarani attending an Nakuru National Forum and saying, well, because the president is still in power and the president is still, and there's no new emerging leader, clear emerging leader in central Kenya, the president still has the grip of the region, contrary to what people may be saying that the ground has shifted.
Is it important for him to have a grip? Because if you look at sentiments that he's made previously, he said, look, folks, I'm tired. He has said this before. I actually want to finish this and I go and rest. So in terms of his control over the area, I don't know if I see the importance of it, because where he's coming from, he really wants to focus on developing the country and actually leave a legacy where he said, look, I got in and I was able to do and knock off some blocks there in terms of what he was able to fulfill in the country. So for him, whether there's control or not, I don't know how important that is for him from a personal point of view. It may be important for the people around him to say that, yes, we actually have a leader and this is the direction in which he's leading us, but he said certain things and basically he's asking you to toe the line, and from there, that's where we push on.
That amount of energy being spent on telling people to toe the line implies that they're not toeing the line. But if you consider the silent or the salient message that has been sent, one cannot seem to make headway in an area that is predominantly inclined towards a certain individual unless they see cracks or they see possible cracks, which they can then capitalize on. And if I am to go by general or popular sentiment, is that many people feel that they have been failed, that things that they thought would happen have not happened. The sort of development agenda they thought would favor their part of the world has not done so. Now, this is the realm of perception, because whenever someone becomes the president in this country, the people from where you came from, the ethnic affiliation you have, there's a feeling that they should benefit disproportionately more than every other place.
Yes.
Yep.
And if they perceive that is not so, that's where the disenchantment begins. They feel they have been failed. And when one has that attitude, even things that have been done and which are positive, they will not see, and they will also not talk about. They will focus. So if you have someone reinforcing it, they don't have to say it. They simply need to present themselves and give the impression that they are doing better than this other individual. And there's a feeling that this person could do better by us. But you forget that whatever they're doing is because of the position they hold in government.
And I think that sentiment is further compounded by, this is the blowback from introducing Raila into the mix. Remember, he's been sold as the boogeyman to Central for the longest, anti-enterprise and so forth. So bringing Raila into the mix has also created an opportunity, I think, for Ruto because of the resistance to Raila. And, we've spent years as Jubilee, selling Raila as just a terrible man, generally, that will interfere with businesses. And the minute you speak like that to Central, then, of course, you will have some resistance. So given, I think this is something the president would have expected. His political advisors would know that there would be some blowback from the handshake within Central. And what Ruto has done is jumped in and capitalized on that, any resistance to Raila.
There's something I want to understand here. This same person, this Raila, whom Mudavadi speaks of eloquently in his book, is the same Raila who in 2002 was the man in Central Province.
It was Njamba.
He was the man.
Was he? I wasn't around.
Yes, he was. This man was received with such acclaim in
For
Central.
a couple of months
You
until
needed to
he
see.
started insisting on the MOU.
Yes.
And then
Then
things went back to factory settings.
Complete factory settings. Prior to that, in fact, the man would get cheered even more than the president. So
So did Raila actually help Kibaki's bid, or would Kibaki have gotten that without Raila, Kibaki Tosha?
Having a
statement?
united opposition was one of the things that people had said. One
And
of
he
the
came in
ways
right at
of
the end,
felling-
Raila,
of
didn't he?
felling Kanu was having a united.
right at which end?
Right at the end, just before the elections. This is supposedly. I haven't read enough
No.
about it. I haven't been around. I wasn't around to absorb the political temperatures and so forth.
The
So-
fact of the matter is, right? If we had seen the Tea Party guys, the Tea Party guys are Kibaki, Ngilu, and the late Wamalwa. Not Wamalwa.
Yes, Wamalwa,
Kijana.
Kijana Wamalwa, right? If those had gone one way, and then Raila and the guys he had come out with from Kanu had gone another way, we'd still have had a split kind of opposition. And
So
it
you
would
had the Luyas united. So
No.
you had the
They
two
were not.
biggest
No,
tribes
they
in
were
Kenya.
not.
The Luyas were united.
No.
Under
The
Kijana they were.
The Luyas had never united.
I thought under Kijana they were
They were not.
united. They
No,
coalesced
they were not.
around
Ford
one
Kenya
leader.
is a Bukusu party, just so that you understand.
And you've got to remember, at that point, then the vice president was this man who has launched a book,
Yes.
Musalia Mudavadi.
Yes.
Right? And then we had also the other political players.
And were they not on the
Support.
side of Kibaki?
No,
Musalia Mudavadi?
no, they were not.
Musalia was Kanu vice president.
I think go a
Kanu
little
had a
back.
candidate, Uhuru Kenyatta.
Eric, go a little back and say these are people who had been in Kanu and had left Kanu.
Yes.
Right.
All right? So that particular faction had Kalonzo,
Had Saitoti.
had Nyaga. It even had Ruto.
Yes.
Well, Ruto came into it later
No,
on.
Ruto didn't leave. Ruto was in Kanu with
Yes.
Uhuru.
Yes.
Ruto campaigned for Uhuru in Kanu. Musalia campaigned for Uhuru in Kanu.
Yes.
And then, of course, now we'd have had like a 3-horse race.
Yes.
Maybe we can say Kibaki might have won, but the margin.
The question is,
Small,
had
small.
it not been so,
No,
but for
I
Raila,
am
would
a little
Kibaki
more
have won?
definite. He wouldn't have.
Well,
Who would have
you,
won?
you would lean that
Kibaki
way, wouldn't
wouldn't
you,
have
CT?
Who would have won?
It would have been a race between Kanu and Raila's faction. Kibaki had people who you couldn't say had the sort of national support that the Raila side had.
Remember, Kibaki was second in the previous election. In the 1997 election, Kibaki had come in second.
Yes,
right?
he had.
And of course, Kanu had won.
Yes.
And Raila had been third and Gilu fourth.
Yes.
So number 4 and number 2 have come together. Then Raila as number
Eric,
3.
you know it
plus
doesn't
now
work
the
like
other
that
Kanu
in
guys.
You know it doesn't work like that in politics.
Kibaki's supporters, I think, had not waned. You can say the other people. You can say maybe Ngilu's supporters could have waned.
No,
Kibaki's
they
supporters
hadn't
had not
actually-
waned. They had increased.
Look, Kibaki was standing with Uhuru. It meant central vote was going to be divided. Let's start there, okay? When Kibaki stood the other time, there was no division of the votes in central. Now the votes in central were going to be divided. Point number 1. Point number 2, Ngilu had stood for presidency, but they had another person called Kalonzo who unfortunately had more traction then than
Than
even
she did.
Ngilu.
Let's go back to the statement you made about votes in Central being divided. I doubt it. If you remember Kenyatta's political career, Kenyatta 2 that is, it didn't start off on a strong footing. If you remember, he had a hard time garnering support even in Gatundu at some point. So I don't think the Kikuyu vote was split in 2002 as such. I think most were backing Kibaki.
I think City has a point in that, there was still a split even then. A number of people, of course, voted for Uhuru. That's where the name Kamwana came in, the Prince came in. But that's the number of votes that Uhuru got in Central is what he'd have gotten anyway. Right?
How do you mean is what he would have gotten anyway?
That's what he'd have gotten. Now, we are talking about if we had 3 factions instead of 2. If the Raila group had not supported Kibaki, then the split for Kikuyu votes would have been bigger. I think it would have been the same way it was, because people voted for Kibaki and then the other people
This is
voted
what I'm
for
saying.
Uhuru.
I don't think the Kikuyu vote was actually significantly split.
But
I think the split would have
it wasn't.
been
all
negligible.
right. Why don't I take you back to the time when Matiba and Kibaki?
Now that was a big
Now
split.
That was split.
There was a split.
There
That
was
was a
then.
big split.
Yes.
Yes. So what
because of the
make-
gravitas of the two.
There was, but had Uhuru stood for presidency before? No. The reason why the votes are split is because of the seat that was being fought for. So now, if you are 2 people from the same community vying for the same position, votes would be split. And remember, Uhuru had the support of the president, the sitting president of the government.
And I'm saying the same thing.
Whom the Kikuyus did not support by the end.
We still had the two Kikuyu candidates in the ballot in 2002. The votes that Kibaki got from Central Kenya are the votes that he would have gotten anyway had Raila's faction of KANU still gone into a ballot.
What I'm
because
saying,
the
Eric,
Raila
is
faction
that
of KANU did not have a Kikuyu candidate.
what I was saying earlier on was this, that when the prize is the presidency, voting patterns will change. Even someone who probably would not have been thought of as an MP, people suddenly look at the person differently. Remember, in the election we speak of, Kalonzo literally carried all the votes from Cumberland.
Has Peter Kenneth been on the ballot box as president?
Yes.
Did he split any Kikuyu votes, do you think?
No.
Thank you.
But
So
Peter Kenneth,
it's not...
No. Allow me to explain what I'm trying to tell you. Peter Kenneth wanted to stand at a time when you already had a Kikuyu president. How do you think that was going to play out? He was challenging a sitting Kikuyu president. How was that going to play out? Politically, even with the people who vote. How was it going to play out?
Yeah, he definitely would not have made the selection. Now, looking at the kind of influence that Raila had over that particular, in terms of saying Kibaki Tosha, looking at the influence that he has now, it's been easily said, 50% of the country is in support of this man. Was that the same in 2002, 17 years ago? It was greater.
The support, he represented people who had gone against Moi.
So he just decided to be a nice guy and hand it over to Kibaki. It's not that he realized Kibaki is winning. I might as well jump on this boat, gravy train.
You know,
The people who were supporting KANU anyway had reduced. Look, guys.
Would Kibaki have won without the
Yes,
Raila Tosh?
he would have won.
Right.
The margin would have been
So the
less.
MOU.
that now is
Right.
the narrative that you hear me speaking against.
Right.
Because it's a false narrative.
Because
Why is it
I'm
false?
asking, if I can finish. What I was saying then is because if you can say this man controlled 50%, and you say that at some point it was even greater
Yes.
than that in 2002, because I had just come in and I could feel the temperature, and it was clearly. We are going with what Raila has said we should do.
The point man
If
that
he
people
controlled it
listened to.
then I would say that yes, his contribution was clearly significant in terms of getting Kibaki in that seat.
You see, the narrative behind all this, remember I'm saying narrative, is that other people had tried to go against the president then.
And it didn't work.
But no one had managed to do so and walk away with literally, more than half of the people who had been in that part. He walked away with them. It hadn't been seen. So the optics of it was, this man has support from among the top politicians of this country. So he had a voice that people listened to. That was the time. So as for
and how-
would Kibaki have been president,
So let's come back
he
to
would
the
have been
present.
dead in the water. He
Let's-
would have
No,
made it.
just before we
Let's-
come back to the present, because I think CT is also misleading people. It's important we understand when
you say something, it is not misleading. When I say it is misleading, is it?
When did Raila say Kibaki Tosha? At what point? Was it a month to the elections? Was it, sort of mid-campaigns? So
I don't
6
know.
months
Tell
to the
me.
elections? Because from my understanding, it's when he saw the momentum that the Kibaki brigade had gathered, and he knew this is the winning card, this is the winning team. Then he jumped onto that gravy
I
train.
think we can just go back into Google and check, but it wasn't very much close to the election. Remember, that's when they started, and then they launched it was before the presidential
Not
nominations
long,
had happened.
long before.
It was long before.
It was
Long
before the
before.
presidential
Okay,
nominations
that's
had
quite
happened.
telling then.
And in the interim, there was an accident. Kibaki was incapacitated. He was in hospital.
Look, I stand to be
Believe what
corrected
you
in light
believe,
of new
CT,
evidence.
but yes, we also believe what we believe. It's about perceptions.
By
Again,
the way,
11
Who's
minutes to
we?
7 o'clock.
Eric.
Jerry and Eric.
Jerry and Eric, yes.
11 minutes to 7 o'clock. Does Uhuru Kenyatta have a grip of Central Kenya? He's the ground shifting in
Does
Central
he
Kenya.
need? I think do put it very well.
So let
Does
me
he
open up the
need
phone
a
lines.
grip of Central Kenya?
Whether
He's
he
not
needs or not,
electioneering, he's
whether
not
he
campaigning.
needs it or not,
Okay.
does he have it? Has the ground shifted?
Does it matter?
Does it matter?
Has the ground shifted? Yes, it does. Otherwise, he wouldn't be speaking the way he's speaking.
Well, what it is he doesn't want people politicizing the
11
BBI.
minutes to 7 o'clock. 0719 012 600.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
The
Nairobi.
president of a country requires, to continuously have the approval rating throughout his term, right? So it matters to Uhuru that
By whom?
he has
By the people,
By
or
the
the
people,
people
yes.
surrounded by,
By
the
the
leaders
people.
he's surrounded
by the people,
Which people?
by the
That's what I'm
Exactly.
asking. Who?
By the country.
Which people?
by the
No,
voters.
he has answered.
Okay.
By the voters
country.
around the country. It's important that the president actually feels that he has sway. He holds sway
But Kenyan politics is
politically
quite
over the whole
unique.
country.
Right, but when he was speaking, he was not addressing the people
Hold
of Kenya.
on. Can I finish my point? So, Central Kenya is part of Kenya, right? And if the president feels that this is the bastion of my support, it's of course important that from home I have a stronghold of my
Only if you're
region.
running for presidency.
And
He's not running for
or
elective.
if you are running the
post.
country.
No.
If you're running the
No,
country.
there's laws and
You want to-
institutions and structures that will ensure whatever
if there was an
he
uprising
decides.
against, if the president lost grip of the country, there would be an uprising against his leadership.
How would he lose grip of the country? What are you talking
There you
about?
go. There
What-
you
what are
go.
you
And that's what
talking
I'm talking
about?
about.
What?
If he lost support,
He doesn't need this political support.
He
I mean,
does.
No,
what
if
he-
you lose,
He does.
if you
No.
lose support, Eric has a point. If many people feel you are not doing what they expect you to do, you will lose support.
it's not that people are feeling that. It's that there's been
No,
somebody
Eric
who has
was
been
postulating.
who was
He
rallying,
wasn't saying the
who was
president
rallying.
is at that state. He
I
was
was,
saying
I was merely responding to the question: does he need
Yes.
support? Yes, he does need support. Every president needs. Look, even in America, they do that whole approval rating thing. So if a president sees that the approval rating is dropping, of course he gets
Approval
concerned.
ratings is usually performance based. Now you have to remember there's a key
It's a
ingredient.
perception
There's a
issue.
unique-
People
there's a- yes.
are asked, what
And
do
there's
you
a
feel of the
unique
president?
ingredient
It's the
here.
same thing here. When people are asked, what do you feel of the president? Do you feel that the president represents you or not? That's the thing.
You have to understand there's a unique ingredient in Kenya in DP Ruto in that he has continued the electioneering process since 2017. Now that is going to shift things. You can't call these approval ratings when the president has been busy developing the country and you have somebody else tangaing running around the country, actually riling people up, exciting people and raising political temperatures.
that statement isn't entirely true.
What's untrue about it?
Because what's untrue about it is that the deputy president is part of the presidency. And very many of those visits have been tied to the very things you mentioned, development
No,
projects.
he does not need to be there. Otherwise, the president would do it. It's under the guise
What
that
are you
these are
saying
development
exactly?
projects. But what he's doing is these are actual political rallies,
But
in essence,
you see,
where he can
now
garner
you're-
support.
now you're spinning
and he
a
can
narrative.
I'm not spinning a narrative.
are.
What has
When the
Ruto been
deputy
doing? Ruto has
president-
been launching development projects around the country. He hasn't
What was
been
the president
electioneering.
doing yesterday?
Yes.
No.
What was he doing yesterday?
The president was launching, and the
Not
president,
his government's project.
And the
No, it
president
isn't.
is allowed to.
Not his
He
government's
is the
project.
And the
president.
deputy is not.
Not when the president has said to stop. The president asked him to stop. Wacha kutanga, and he continued because the political rhetoric and the political temperatures were, it was rising. Whereas we wanted a quiet time after the elections. People were exhausted, and of course, it affects the stability of the country, political stability, and hence
You
the
know,
economy.
you've said four different things
I
in
can
that
say
statement.
20 different things in one statement, CT. But the point is, the president was busy developing the country while Ruto was politicking, and that's why you find that if anybody is speaking for Ruto, it's because he has been campaigning for himself. He has
Okay.
been at the fore.
So are you saying that the president does not need support?
What kind
Does
of
he need
support?
political
The
support? Does
president
he
wants
need-
to develop the country.
Yes, does
There's
he need support
structures
for
in
that?
place.
Does
The
he need
development
political-
narrative
There's
is what all
structures in
politicians
place.
tell us in Nyeri.
What?
And in this country, the lack of development is greater than development itself. So if that narrative of the president, he talks about development, it's his job. That's what the government is supposed to do.
Absolutely, not go
We are
around
not-
tanga
We are
tanga.
not discussing development. We are discussing political support.
Now, what I'm saying is he has been so focused on development and he has been asking people, can we stop this politicking? It's affecting our economy.
Consequently,
Let's focus.
has he lost support?
Has he lost? No, he hasn't gained support, but he hasn't been trying to gain support. And he doesn't need. Remember, Ruto is trying to
You
get
just talked about
2022.
Ruto making inroads in Central,
He has.
right?
He has.
What
But
do
why
you
are we
mean by
pitting them? Why is it this dichotomy that it's either Ruto or Uhuru? If Ruto makes inroads, it doesn't mean Uhuru has lost support. Uhuru is not running in 2022.
So when you're making inroads, it means that you're entering somebody's turf. Whose turf are you entering?
These are the MPs that are taking him there. It's not. No.
No,
Inroads.
when
inroads,
Ruto is
no.
making inroads,
Remember,
when you
they
say
voted for
is
Ruto. They have
making
nothing.
Inroads,
They have
he's
nothing
making inroads
against
into
him.
whose turf?
They have nothing against him. It doesn't have to be anybody's turf. It can be neutral turf. This was turf.
isn't neutral
This
turf.
was turf that was focused on development. He has politicized the
It is
region.
Uhuru's turf.
He has politicized the region.
Spin it
Just-
79 times.
No,
It
no,
was
no, no, no,
Uhuru's
no, no.
political turf.
Uhuru is not trying. He's not running for presidency in 2022. He's not
not.
looking to garner the support that Ruto has. Ruto is vested in garnering support, whether it's Western, whether it's Central. Uhuru is not trying to do this, and this is why he's saying, "Can we focus on development?" And he's telling his MPs, "Please, let's focus on development." Instead, his MPs, of course, are this is Jubilee MPs, the ones who allied to Tanga faction. They're looking at their self-interests first. Then they don't support Ruto as such. Ruto has had to pay them. Ruto has had to pay them. By
Look,
the time you have to pay somebody, nah.
This is politics. Why would you constantly tell people to do what they're supposed to do if they're doing it?
He's telling them to stop politicking. They're politicking because, of course, it's lucrative for them. It's not that they genuinely believe in all of this.
How do you know this?
I know this because I know this. Don't worry how I know it.
No,
Everybody knows that.
I know, I don't, for instance. Eric, do
Okay.
you know this?
I have no idea what this,
Yeah, right,
what this
Derek.
is.
No, do you know this?
Just as look at the premise on which we started this conversation in the first place, and we talked about the fact that conversations will change, expressions will change over time over one particular issue. Somebody will say something today, in the next 2 months it'll change in terms of what they mean. But if we look at the consistency, look at BBI, for example, there has always been some kind of ruffling of feathers when it came to this. Somebody somewhere would always have something to say against it, and it was all over the place. And so by the time you have the president standing up and saying, "Look, folks, here we are. We have tried to do 1, 2, 3, and y'all are basically scuttling the process, the people who should be supporting it." So I don't think it was in terms of stamping his ground of authority to say, "This is my region and I still hold the power," but in terms of what we are trying to do as a government for the country, with all these sentiments and all these proclamations and all this running about, hiding in the corners, standing out. You're scuttling the process and you're not allowing us to do our job.
The premise for his conversation
don't
was
think-
BBI, right?
Exactly. So I don't think it was necessarily
BBI
setting...
is a political tool,
Now,
political
let me
process,
finish.
political document.
However,
He needs political support
Okay, finish.
for his BBI. And that's what he was talking about. If these people are coming around now, talking about shooting down the BBI, taking it to parliament or scuttling the entire process, this is a political statement that he's making. And he's saying, you people, you need to read for yourself, but I'll come and we'll discuss this BBI and we'll discuss how to move forward in this BBI issue. It's talking about having political clout in the region. The narrative has been that, and even Jerry mentioned it this morning, that Ruto has been making inroads, political inroads. That means that Uhuru has been losing some of that political clout on the region.
But
Has
why
the
are you
ground-
pitting Uhuru against Ruto?
You even did
you've
it
decided.
yourself.
No, I'm
You
asking.
did it yourself.
Just because Uhuru is Ruto is
conversation
gaining
that I
ground,
was
it doesn't
raising-
mean right. Sorry, it
The
doesn't mean Uhuru
conversation
is
I
losing ground.
raised this morning was that Uhuru still has political clout in central Kenya. You pitted him against Ruto yourself and said, however,
In
Ruto has
that
been making
conversation,
inroads.
He has been making inroads, but it doesn't lose Uhuru any support. Uhuru managed to call everybody. He is still the president. They all went to Sagana, didn't they?
No. Not everybody went to
Who
Sagana.
didn't go? Those who didn't.
Everybody
Alice
who was
Wahome was
Unwell.
no, she wasn't unwell. She was attending her brother's funeral that day. Who else didn't go?
People who are invited went.
Everybody went.
People
Yes.
who are invited
absolutely
went.
This is the Tanga so-called faction.
And it was what? It
And
was a
they were- I
it
hear
was
they
it a
went there
development
with their
meeting?
tails
It was
between
not a
their
development
legs.
meeting. It
No,
was a
no, no.
political meeting.
Which is fine, yes.
It was
Which is fine to have a
Which means
political meeting.
that Uhuru still has political clout in Central.
Absolutely.
Bottom line.
I agree with you. I was
He hasn't lost it, right? But is it important for him to still have that political clout? Why was he holding that meeting in Sagana?
I think
It's so that he
what's important
He
is if you-
consolidates
is
his power.
consolidating his own political clout in the region.
for the sake of development, not for the sake of 2022 elections, for
Of
the sake
course.
of ensuring that these MPs implement the development agenda that he has and support his development agenda. So it's not political.
He'd have called a parliamentary group meeting
it's,
of Jubilee.
It's not political
He didn't do that.
power that he's looking for. He doesn't need it. He's not
It's,
running for president in
coming up
2022.
to 7 o'clock. Let me open up the phone line 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. Also contribute on Facebook, Spice FM KE. Good morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Magali Road traffic is now moving past the MMU, or rather the Multimedia University. Police are on site to have moved the lorry out of the way, so it's going to be a bit easier for you to get off there. Though we still have a bumper-to-bumper situation coming out on Langata Road. All right, unfortunately, a saloon car has been taken over by the floods at the Ruai bypass. There are police on site, but everybody's being asked to approach with caution because it looks like it's not much water, but it is actually taken a vehicle. So please be very careful. Thika Road is moving slowly, albeit, but we'll see what that looks like in a short while. There's a big lake, it would appear, on Lunga Road, and the waters are deep and they're still. So please be very careful. You know what they say about still waters. All right, coming off of Mombasa Road, getting to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout will not be too painful right now, but it might be a little bit thicker in a short while. Let us know where you might be stuck and we can see if we can find alternates for you. 0719-012-600. Send us a message to give us a shout, and we'll see how we can keep you moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Nyeri Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Wenzetu, na ndipo mimi nasema jameni, tujisomee sisi wenyewe. Kwa sababu kuna mambo muhimu ambayo inaguza maisha ya kila Mkenya. Na tunataka kujiuliza kama hiyo swali nimeuliza sasa. Kama serikali ya Japan na kanisa Katoliki wamejenga hii hospitali kwa milioni 8. Hiyo pesa bilioni 70 inaenda wapi kila mwaka? Hiyo ni swali lazima tujiulize sisi wenyewe. Au ni namna gani? Na ndio nasema sio chuki au mabishano na mtu. Hii ni Wakenya sisi tujiulize, hii pesa yetu inawenda wapi kila mwaka? Au ni namna gani wenzangu? Tukae tujiulize kama tunawakilishwa kulingana na vile tunastahili kuwakilishwa. Kweli kura zote zafanana au zifanani? Lazima tujiulize hiyo swali. Kwa sababu labda ni saa ingine hiyo ndio inalete mabishano kati yetu.
3 minutes after 7 o'clock, the phone lines are open. Let's hear from Roderick. Roderick, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How is everyone?
Good morning,
Fine.
Roderick.
I want to say about what Uhuru Kenyatta said yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Uhuru Kenyatta was so specific yesterday when he said his anger and his speech concentrated on the BBI.
Mm-hmm.
These people have been insulting the BBI initiative that was set up by Uhuru Kenyatta, and that's why he was angry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's anything to do about 2022, but it was just about to read the report, because the same people who are abusing the report are now the ones who are supporting the BBI. All of a sudden, they are supporting the BBI and trying to own it.
Mm.
But again, I will say this. A president that who is about to leave office is a very dangerous person. He doesn't trust anybody and is a friend to no one.
Mm.
And will steamroll anyone who is on his path.
Mm.
So these guys tanga-tangaing and going around talking ill about the president and what his initiative to unite Kenya, will be very careful of Uhuru Kenyatta.
Thank
That's my
you.
take.
Thank you, Roderick.
Good point there. He has nothing to lose. He's about to leave
0719
office.
012 Indeed.
Actually, he does. There's something called a legacy. That is something someone wants to secure.
You secure and guard.
Yes.
I think what he's doing is warning against this politicking, because the country is being held ransom to this 2022 politics. This is all we've been doing. And when he's warning these MPs, he's saying, stop this, let's focus on development. So I don't think it's a matter of losing power or losing political clout in the area. These are two different narratives that are competing. Of course, one is very lucrative, the two narratives being one of development and the other being the political 2022 aspirations. The 2022 aspirations are very lucrative. So it's not two individuals that are competing. It's not Ruto versus Uhuru and then Ruto is gaining traction. It's two narratives that are competing on the ground. Those two narratives being one that the president is pushing, development, and then, of course, this very enticing one of 2022 politics. But it doesn't help the economy in the long run. What the MPs need to do is focus on implementing the development agenda, but instead...
There's a political narrative that has also been going around that the president is actually losing ground. So, those things of if the president, whatever the president tells us, we're not going to listen to him because we're pissed off at his government and how the government is delivering.
No, because we're being
its
paid.
agenda.
No, it's because we are being paid.
The people. The people, not the MPs.
What informs those people? What informs their opinions? It's the utterances by their MPs.
Exactly.
Every weekend you see Moses Kuria on that podium. You see Alice Wahome. They do this like a campaign.
Okay.
Do the people? Do you think the people can actually feel disenfranchised or not?
Or do they?
The people don't feel.
Are they
the
told
economy as a whole? We
disenfranchised?
all know that there's been struggles with the economy throughout the country. Now, what has happened is Central has been politicized with the perpetual electioneering mode that Ruto has thrown them into. And that is with the aid of some of these MPs to whom the president is warning or is talking to in his messaging.
Must everything begin and end with Ruto coming into the discussion?
This is about that, isn't it?
No.
It's about the president.
What, just losing support? From Central or from the whole country or?
Central. Today we're talking about Central.
I think the Ruto factor can't be ignored.
One of the reasons why he was holding, we
What
cannot ignore the fact that the president called a meeting of Mount Kenya leaders
It's
specifically.
Yeah, I think it would be
And it was
important.
not to go there and tell them,
to
look,
look at the
guys,
reasons.
in terms
If
of
he
tea,
is,
in terms of coffee.
No.
It
If he
was
is-
also a
It
lot
was
of politics.
Okay.
Absolutely, because of
There
the
you
Ruto
go.
factor
if
and the
he's
Raila
losing,
factor.
if he's
Because
losing
of that
support,
sentiment
if
that I'm
he's
talking
losing
about.
support, there are reasons as to why this support would be lost, and it would be interesting to see what those reasons are. You can't just lose support out of the blue for no reason. What would be the what is behind the loss of
And
support?
this is what I'm talking about.
There have to be reasons as to why he's losing the support. What has happened?
That narrative, people feeling like, they've
Where
not
did that
delivered.
come from? Where did it
No, if
come
people
from?
were
It must have
genuinely
come
feeling
from somewhere. And
disenfranchised,
Expectations.
If people were
okay, so
genuinely
the
feeling
support for the
disenfranchised,
president has been lost because
No,
they expected.
it hasn't been lost.
It's being lost.
The narrative-
if he's
The narrative
losing
is-
support-
The narrative is that the president's support in the region is waning because of the performance of his government, among
so
other
why
reasons.
would Ruto's be gaining at the same time? Because they're known as
You're
a
the one who
presidency.
said that, so
No,
explain.
No,
Specifically
You're the
in
one who
this
said
region.
that. Now it's
Because
your
he is
turn. Now
pushing and-
explain
yes.
explain what you meant by saying that Ruto is gaining ground
And making inroads.
and making inroads.
He's making inroads, political inroads, because he's busy campaigning every day. It's the same way Coca-Cola is always advertising. It's the same thing. It will be at the fore of people's minds when it comes to leadership. People are forgetting the development agenda. And this is what Uhuru is saying. Please, can we focus on development? We cannot be held ransom to 2022 politics. We've been doing this since 2017. There hasn't been a place where the country stabilizes politically and we can focus on development. This is what the president has been urging for. So
Ruto
it's
is
not
making
the
political
president.
inroads.
He's making inroads. I've explained why. Because it's very lucrative to fall for that narrative, to follow that narrative of the political agenda and 2022. Because Uhuru is not paying MPs to implement development. Whereas on the other side, what you have is whoever is pushing the 2022 agenda is paying
Uhuru doesn't
MPs.
pay MPs.
He doesn't.
We pay them. We, the taxpayer.
Apart from
Okay.
that, or further to that, he doesn't supplement their salaries.
So are we
with
saying
200K every
So
week.
basically, what we're saying is that the support of the people, rather, Uhuru has lost support of the people of Central Kenya, and this is now why he's talking about some of the things that he's talking about, because of the fact that they expected him to do certain things, and they saw that as a result of the handshake, those expectations would be dimmed or would drop,
and then-
that is the reason
That-
why
no,
he
the
has
handshake
lost.
is more political.
And then in comes,
according to
and then
this,
in comes
because
the
of the
politics.
handshake, people who were dependent on certain kinds of development for their businesses within Central were expecting this to happen. As a result of the handshake, it wouldn't happen then because the development would be moved to other areas.
But
No,
against
not
against
as a result of the handshake.
against this background, please remember, please
Uhuru is
remember,
taking development to Kisumu.
please
That's what they said
remember
now.
that
Who said?
development was also devolved. with the county system.
I am still trying to understand, because if this is what we're saying, if he's losing support,
I thought-
what are the reasons
I
why
actually
he's
explained this
losing
when
support?
I said that in this
The
country,
expectations.
when people have one of their own, meaning their tribe's person in a position of power, they expect a
Not
disproportionate.
Kikuyus. Not Kikuyus.
They expect a
No, not
they,
Kikuyus.
they expect a
Am I lying?
proportionate amount of development to come to their area. So in this case, as a result of the handshake, which is clear, and we've had it come out, as a result of the handshake, some of this development will be shifted from them.
Kikuyus don't expect favorable treatment because one of their own is in power. That's a
If there is a
Not
great
true.
lie that has been spoken, you've
They
surpassed
don't.
all
They
lies by what
genuinely
you've just
don't.
said. Everyone does. Everyone.
what Central expects is a conducive business environment
so-
for them to conduct their enterprise.
So,
So
Jerry,
why-
don't
if that is
expect
true, then
favorable
Why
if that
are
is true,
they-
then there
Not
would be no.
favorable.
If
Why are
that
they
is
pleased with
true,
one of
then
their
there
own?
would be
Yes,
no loss
why?
of support.
What are they pissed about?
If that
There
is
is
true, there would be no
somebody
loss
paying-
of support.
There is
And we're
What are they
talking-
pissed about?
There's somebody going around rallying people, keeping them in electioneering mode, and paying people.
You know, you're determined to paint everything that happens around
that
the
is
deputy
one.
president.
That
You're
is one factor.
determined.
It is
And-
the
and
deputy
payment.
president.
Yes, and you're determined.
This is what is happening.
It
It
doesn't
is the
matter
deputy
what we
president.
say.
Remember, the
These
issue-
MPs
the-
themselves say they are
the
allied
issue-
to DP
the issue,
Ruto.
The issue of MPs and weekends and going around the country
And the
is-
200,000 from Karen.
and maybe 200,000 from Karen has also even been taken to the presidency. This is the OP. Remember when MPs shot down the nomination of Monica Juma
Yes.
because she was the PS? What were they saying? That she is not allowing us to get this weekend stipends.
Yes.
So then there are those who will also tell you that now the Kieleweke side and all the rallies that they go around are funded, of course, from other quarters. Who funds them? It's not about the funding
But they're
issue.
not going
The
around.
people
They're
are-
trying to implement
the-
development.
the
It's their
No.
salaries.
the people
They're
whose
not
vox
going
pop-
All
around
right, let me
campaigning.
ask.
The people whose vox pops you hear on the ground are not receiving money from anywhere. They're not receiving
Yes.
any
Who
200,000
knows?
shillings.
Okay, not 200,000.
They're
but,
not receiving that 200,000 shillings.
They're
So
receiving misinformation
if
every
people are feeling
weekend from their
disenfranchised,
MPs.
it's because of the state of economy. Number one, right? So they talk about.
But that's across
look,
the country. It's not just in Central.
This is what I'm
exactly.
saying.
Yes,
Yeah, it's around the
it's-
country.
It's across the country. And now here is Central Kenya feeling, look, come on, guy. You came and
If
we
there's been
supported you,
any-
and
if
this is what
there's
you're
been
doing.
any
The
blowback.
political support for the government comes from the voters. If the voters are feeling this is, you have let us down,
We are not receiving what was promised to us and what we
and
expect.
it's a louder voice because
There's
this
that
particular
element.
region has the highest concentration of voters of this government, then it's going to be louder. And this is what we are talking about. So
But
is
support
there
for
that
the government
support?
is clearly still there. Ruto is still the deputy president. So if it was they're feeling disenfranchised because of just the economic situation and so forth, even Ruto wouldn't have the support that he's managed to garner here. He's managed to garner this support on, of course, 2022 politics, and because politicians are clever people, and you do look out for yourself. Serving self-interests is what is important to them. So people know the president is not going to run another term. He's not going to be in running for presidency. Ruto will be. So you want to align yourself with that. And this is why we see the discord that we're seeing, not just within Jubilee, but even in Central. Central people are aligning themselves to 2022 leaders, people who they think will be at the helm of power in 2022. Now, in doing so, they're forgetting the development agenda. And this is what the president is asking them. Can we focus on development? In doing so, they're now beginning to politicize the BBI. And this is why the president was pissed off, because this is a document that could help Kenya, everybody. It could help.
Tell
sort
me
out
a little
number
bit
of
more about
problems.
this development agenda. What is it exactly?
Well, we've got the big four that he talks about. So from manufacturing through to food security, housing, and of course, universal health care. Those are the pillars that he wants to develop.
And how is the
And-
politics interfering with all this?
Well, if people are busy politicking, what you have is instead of...
But these are politicians.
There's no ground for
they're
building a
also-
house.
Yes, there's no ground for, and there are no people who can come and
No,
build
they're-
houses.
They're politicians, but MPs should be focusing on development. They get
That's
a
not their
CDF.
job.
It is. They get
No,
a CDF.
it isn't.
They get CDF. What is that for?
The fact that people are politicking, does it
They
mean
get
that
CDF.
development has
And
actually stalled or has come to an end?
also, he
Are you
should
saying they're
be-
eating the CDF?
the Tanga ones, yeah. Also,
Politicians.
there's the Raila factor. There will be some blowback from that, introducing Raila into Central. I read somewhere somebody had written on Twitter that it's like selling pig at a mosque, or pork rather, at a mosque. Trying to sell.
But Nyeri,
Raila
if what you're saying is true, in 2007, the personification of the devil in Central was Ruto.
But we managed to change that. Right
yes,
now,
so
the boogeyman has been Raila for a
yes.
very long time. In fact, a lot
So
of
it's
people used to
changing.
come
No.
to vote out
This is-
Raila as opposed to vote in for
I
a
tried to
candidate.
explain this to you. Remember, you were not here when this happened. In 2002, Raila was a very popular man in Central. Very popular. So, and that was against the background of all these narratives about what a terrible, horrible person he was. Stories about Ruto, 2007 onwards, horrible, terrible devil. Okay? That has changed. So, what makes it difficult for that same populace to change and say, Raila perhaps not as bad as we thought? Because the people who were alive in 2002, the vast majority are still alive now. Yes.
We
They're still
used
there.
a lot of the anti-Raila rhetoric in terms of campaigning, because as you do, you campaign for yourself and you put down your opponent. It's normal political communication. So there was a lot of that, and we've just come out of an election, 2-3 years ago. So I think the sentiments are still there. We're going to have to sell him, considering what our strategy, what the Jubilee strategy was previously. They're going to have to sell him. So I think there is some blowback from that, and I think Ruto has capitalized on that. He has also capitalized on the fact that the president was busy developing the country as opposed to politicking, whereas he was politicking. So he has gained some political capital from that too. So I don't think it's that the president's support is waning. I think that would be a false dichotomy that it's Ruto versus Uhuru in Central. No, it's not. It's two competing narratives: development versus the politics of 2022.
And the leaders of those two narratives are
the
president
the
and
politics
his
of
deputy.
2022 is very lucrative, and that is why you'll find people leaning there. But it's very short term in terms of its shelf life. Very short. That's why they say they're for rent, not for sale.
The argument that I've been postulating this morning actually goes contrary to some of what you're saying, that William Ruto is gaining a lot of ground, and therefore, of course, it would, of course, mean that the president is losing his political capital on the ground. And I'm saying today, he isn't.
But that's a false dichotomy. Because Ruto is gaining, it doesn't mean the president is losing.
Well, it is obvious.
No,
Jerry,
it's not a zero-sum game. It's not that simple.
Actually, it is.
It is.
No, it is not. If
It is.
today Central had an election as a country
The
and it was
point-
Ruto versus Uhuru, Uhuru would sweep the floor, as in it would be a landslide.
There you
99%.
go. So Ruto is
there's
making no inroads in Central.
No.
That
In
is the
terms of,
point I am
but
making.
his political talk is, his
I am
narrative
saying it is not.
His narrative is. Not him as a person, his narrative.
My argument is that it is not. The president just needs to do one whirlwind tour of Central Kenya and everybody will be aligned. In fact,
I agree
all he
with
needs
you.
to do is call in the Kikuyu radio stations and TV stations to set out for breakfast, and it's live streamed, broadcast live
That's
across
it.
the region, and that's it.
And I
By the end of
completely
that
agree
day,
with you.
in fact, if he remains
But until he does so, you will have these narratives winning.
until he does so, he'll be losing ground. No, he'll not be
It's-
losing
it's a
ground.
narrative,
18
it's not
minutes
losing
past
ground.
7.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation on Spice FM. This is the Situation Room. Of course, we are making inroads around the country and gaining political ground and listenership around the country. 94.4 in Nairobi, 102.5 in Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa, 96.0 Nakuru, Eldoret, we are on 96.7. In Nyeri, we are on 90.9. And Malindi, 97.7. We're live streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE, on our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. And of course, you can join the conversation on Twitter, at Spice FM KE, hashtag The Situation Room. In the room, my name is Eric Latif. We have CT Muga, Jerry Thorne, Nduoko. Talk about education.
Right, looking at what's happening in the country right now, looking at placements for national schools, secondary schools in 2020, beginning January, wherein a lot of the students who took the just concluded examinations will be looking to be placed. And we had a promise from the education minister just after the exams that not a single student would miss a placement in a school around the country. So about 1 million students, and I think the numbers that were given as of last week were 970 70,000 students had actually been placed around school. And so there was this group of about 30,000 that they were looking at, making placement for. Now, coming off yesterday, we had quite a number of discrepancies where we see that some students were placed in schools far from where they would have desired. Now, in terms of making a selection, in terms of how they actually made the selection and what they did, there was quite a bit of trouble. There was quite a bit of mishap. And then we had hue and cry from many parents who said, look, unfortunately, my child who goes to school, who lives with me in Nairobi, can then not go to school across the country in in Busia. My child who lives in Kisumu, I cannot send them all the way to Taita Taveta to go to school, because this is what we had in terms of some of the selections that were then made. Now, in this case, I would say that the government did what it was supposed to do in terms of making sure the placement happened. And we must also understand that the placements were done as a result of the selection by students in terms of where they wanted to go. Of course, this was played against the marks that they were able to garner during these exams, and then going on to the second, third, fourth, and so on selections. But unfortunately, what we see now is that we've opened the door for quite some corruption to take place. As of yesterday, phones are not being picked up by principals who normally would have had a discussion in terms of where your child could go if they had not been selected. And now we see very many parents in turmoil because they don't know what is going to happen to their children come the new year 2020 in terms of going to school. And I'm saying that in terms of using the information that we have, making the proper selection with the right information would actually make this process very seamless, and we would not have this hullabaloo that we normally have around this time. It's an old age tradition in Kenya that around this time, December, we see a lot of principals being visited. Parents are looking for placement for their children to get into secondary school. And I'm saying without the right information, without using the right information for selection, without doing the right thing at the right time, then it's clear that corruption is going to come in the door, and we are going to see heightened cases of it just from a lack of information, and we cannot continue to let that happen. So yeah, we had about 1 million students who took this exam and were looking to be placed in secondary schools for January next year. But then now we have a problem whereby, yes, the placement was done, selection has been made, but people are not happy with the selections and people are looking for a different school, or at least looking for transfer. And we have principals not talking. And they're saying, I will not be seen, I will not be spoken to, I am not discussing this. Basically, you're saying, take that, which you have. We've had reports of parents now saying, look, what we're going to do is try to convince our children that the school that has been selected is a good school. Just go ahead and take that selection, and we'll do what we can. But unfortunately, what we are going to see
is more corruption.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Let me tell you what's happened.
We're going to see more corruption. We're going to see parents looking to grease.
Head teachers are the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, has, of course, gone ahead to complain about this NEMIS, the Education Management Information System,
yeah.
The one that's now being used, of course, to place the students. And they're saying we should discard this NEMIS, we should go back to the manual system of doing things. Manual system of doing things means what?
Yeah.
Cash.
What?
Mukwanja, kaching. Head teachers switching off their mobile phones is because they know, of course, their parent Nyeri, who I helped to get their firstborn son into my school last year, but one had another pupil this year and want to do the same thing. And now parent Nyeri is calling me and I don't have an answer. The thing about this is that this time the headmasters do not have an answer. They cannot give you a solution yet.
They cannot give you a solution, but they might be willing to give you one soon.
Myself, you do understand these headmasters live in Kenya.
Yes.
They're individuals.
And people know them. They know their houses. They know where to find them. So what makes you think that because you can't call someone, you can't get hold of them?
I'm telling you, people are going to...
The first line of contact, first of all, you're switching it off. You look for me now, come. And then you'll be told I've gone to Nairobi.
So your argument, one could argue that it isn't as though they've been caught flat-footed. What the system has done, they've exacerbated the very thing that they are now trying to curb. Because instead of talking over the phone, somebody will like to come and find you physically.
But you can't do it. You can't actually admit their pupil.
Who says?
the system.
According to the system, you can't.
This is how.
But in
this is-
terms of then what you will be able to, I'm telling you,
To
money,
get a
money
transfer-
talks, my friend.
to
And
get a-
clearly
to
that
get
has
a
been the
transfer-
narrative
This isn't
that
a
has been
transfer.
to get a
spun.
transfer. This is about a transfer. All the students have been placed across the country.
All the students have been
What you're
placed.
seeking is
To move your child from one
moving
school
your
to
child
another
from
one that
here
is
to
more
there.
convenient for
Eric,
you.
the reason why I'm saying it's not about a transfer, you need to tell me, or you need to say that this system will actually track every student admission in the country.
Yes,
If it will, then you have a point.
that's what I'm saying. The NEMIS has a database of all the million plus students who sat the exam.
Do the
And
students not get a say in what school they want to go
They
to?
do.
They
They
do
did.
in the selection process.
did.
That's why it starts actually. Even before you sit your exam, sometime in is it June or earlier? in
You're
the
actually
year.
allowed to select way before the exam
Excuse
period.
me, you start selection standard 7.
in 7.
7, not even 8.
There you go.
7.
The school you'd like to go to?
Yes,
Yes.
after standard 8. So you have a long time in which to decide.
Unfortunately, the intricacies or the finer details of this selection, I think, is what has gotten us to this problem that we have now, because a lot of students don't actually understand what it is that they're putting in when they're making the selection, and that is the outcry that we see now. And unfortunately, it's going to take us to the place whereby parents are going to fork out a lot of money to then make sure that their students then go to the school that is convenient for them. Previously, we saw where, because of the high ratings that a particular school would get, parents would pay an arm and a leg to get their students into those schools for standard 8 or even form 4 for just that year to make sure that they then passed. How much more do you think they would be willing to do to make sure that the child got into a school?
A lot more.
A
And
lot more, for
blame it on
sure.
the parents, but then it's not going to work. So, for example, last week the Standard had a headline, and it was telling us the most sought-after schools. Pangani, which has a capacity of 300 students, had 800,000 plus people who had selected it as their first choice. 800,000 pupils had
And mark
said-
you, there are a million students who are
And
going.
there's only 300 places.
and it can only accommodate 300. So you see the kind of disparities. So this is where the NEMI system comes in. So it basically looks at,
It's a random,
this
almost,
is student so and so. This is the cutoff point for getting to national schools. Do you get to the cutoff point? You do. So what
They
was your
try
first
and
choice?
Do an ethnic diversity thing and gender balance, or the schools, of course, there.
Well, that depends on the algorithm. The algorithm is what to detail the things you're saying, where they look at gender, they look at community you come from, etc., etc. I can only guess and suppose that they took all these things
Probably they
into
did.
consideration. Remember, the university also had it, where when it came to university admission, it was done by a system almost similar to this. So
And what was district focus?
this was improved. This is sort of like improved district focus. District focus was affirmative action of sorts. Yes, meaning if you came from a certain part of the country, you had an advantage in that you would get a priority on those schools.
The
There
quota
was a
system.
quota.
Quota
Yes,
system.
there was a quota system, yes. And again, it went to national schools as well. Now, successive governments have tried to write this by increasing the number of national schools. So, but Kenyans aren't fooled.
Let me tell you,
You can call a school a national school and they'll tell you, that's not a national school. That's a
as far as
provincial
we're
school.
concerned.
being called-
Parents will still behave with the national schools that they knew when
they
they
knew
were
when
students.
they were students, yes.
You know,
Is
so
it
you know the
size of
alliances.
the size of the school?
No.
in terms of
No,
that
it's,
makes it
it's
national.
what they were able to
prestige as
achieve
well.
in terms of results, and it also was prestige. Who went to that school? What kind of legacy did the school have around the country?
And then
yes,
performance.
Performance at the
Oh, it's
end of it,
performance-based.
performance-based.
Right.
Yes, a lot of people said, look, they've always been a particular school. If you just pick out Alliance, for example, has always been able to churn out students with fantastic results
the longest
for the
time,
longest
yes,
time. So then a lot of parents want their children, boys and girls, to be able to
But then with
attend Alliance.
the time, other schools,
Other schools
have come
have
in.
caught up and
schools
passed,
that
yeah.
were previously provincial schools have come in. Like Pangani was not a national school.
No, it wasn't.
Kapsabet Boys wasn't a national school. Maranda was not a national school.
Now they've emerged.
Pangani
Schools-
wasn't a
schools that-
national school.
No.
Previously it wasn't.
And
Schools
can
that
they
were
be
hitherto
relegated?
national
It was a
schools
provincial
also
school.
Yes,
It's
like
been elevated.
Nakuru High School.
Relegated. Can
Like
they
Nak-
be moved down? So can
Nakuru High
Alliance
School, I
haven't.
think, had suffered that similar fate.
Yeah.
And Nakuru High School had actually, dwindled in terms of performance and everything. So Nakuru High School, which was a national school,
It was a national school, yes.
was considered
Demoted.
Provincial.
This one, you take it to provincial level. But I'm not sure now with the increase of the number.
It is a
of-
national school.
Now it's come back to national school. You see, it's about that status. Parents want their pupils to go to a school that they consider, well, this is a good school. Of course, every parent wants their child to go to the best school that they feel.
And to
this
do
is
well.
the
That they
best school.
feel.
And
You
they,
see, that's the thing.
yes,
that they feel
that
as
the
parents.
that
Yeah.
the parent feels.
And
as-
oftentimes, the input of the child is not considered. Oftentimes-
actually, that is not entirely true.
Or when you have parents paying for your child to go
No,
and attend
it
Form
isn't-
4
it isn't
so that they can
entirely
take,
true.
when you have parents paying so that your child can go and attend Standard 8 or Form 4 in a different school for the sole purpose of passing an exam because of the profile of that school nationally.
Why I'm saying it isn't entirely true, even if you're going to choose a school for your child, you're going to have to talk to that child and explain why you're choosing that school. Because these modern day children have an idea of the schools they want to go to. You know why? They have friends who have older brothers and sisters. This ecosystem in which they exist, they also discuss these schools. And you'd be amazed at what they tell you, and they'll have information. And remember, now, with the communication that apparatus in the communication age that you are in, they are quite able to find out information about these very schools.
Right.
They
so
will do.
Now, if the government has come up with this system whereby the selection is going to be made, I am telling you in the next 3 weeks, before we get to January 1st, there is going to be an attempt for a lot of money to change hands so that children can be placed in the particular schools that they wish. It is going to happen. And if anything, and if anything, this system and what it has done with the kind of placement that we've seen through algorithm or formula is actually opening the door for a lot more in terms of corruption.
In which direction?
What do you mean in which direction?
Is it to the headmasters?
Oh, parents are going to pay headmasters to
No,
have money
no,
placed.
no. I thought you'd seen it. If it is a system, then it means those who control that system,
the owners of the system,
will be the focus of the bribe.
The bribe shifts
There's
upwards.
going to be help, though.
It shifts.
There's going to be help.
29 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is the situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. What's happening wherever you are on the road? Please let us know. Spice FMKE is our Twitter handle and the hashtag is the situation room. Let's take a look at what's happening wherever you are. Good morning.
Traffic.
Outside of the city for a short while, and the Naivasha-Nakuru highway understands that the river Malewa is about to take a mind of its own. So we're being asked to plan with caution, and you might want to add 2 hours to your trip just to make sure that you arrive safe. And authorities have warned that you need to be very, very careful because the roads are more than wet and there's a lot of still water. We don't know how deep it is, so you're asking that you please take it easy. All right, that's outside of Nairobi. Within Nairobi, Donholm Jogo Road, the traffic is likened to hell, and the drivers who are not taking it easy are now compounding. We have now 5 lanes where we would ordinarily have 2. Lunga Road near Outer Ring is at a standstill because it is seriously flooded and nobody can really move really fast because you don't know what lies underneath. All right, looking at Langata Road, still a bit of a mess. Should you leave the house or should you just stay home? Maybe for now you need to stay home and let those who are there battle it out in the meantime. People still getting into the city, parking still at 400 shillings despite the court order, and now that means that fewer people are getting into the city. People are stuck right around it. Let's see what the situation looks like in a short while, but for now this is where we are. Most places at a standstill. You're approaching a body of water. Please do so with caution. 0719-012-600 is the number to call if you need to let us know some info, and we'll pass it round.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
The selection into Form 1 places for the students that sat this year's KCPE is ongoing. And of course, this year now it's being done with the aid of an algorithm. This is with a system known as the National Education Management Information System, NEMIS, which is the one that's placing students according to what they're selected. And of course, the Ministry of Education has told us there are some 30,000 students who are selected, who were posted to schools that they hadn't selected because of their selection choices. But then, of course, there are very many parents, of course, and students across the country who have said, well, I have been posted to a school that I did not even know existed, or to a county that it's about 200 kilometers from my home, or 300. Somebody from, you said somebody from...
We have somebody from Kisumu going to Taita Taveta. We have somebody from Nairobi going to Busia. We have somebody...
You know, it feels and sounds strange because we now have a system, and it's good because we don't have to blame an individual. It's a system.
Exactly.
But in the 70s, up to probably early 80s, when you had the Form 6 system, you would be taken to almost any part of the country.
Yes.
You could come from Central and end up in Western, a place you'd never even heard of in your life. You could come from Western and end up in Northeastern, a place you'd never heard of. For Form 5 and 6. By the same token, when you graduated and were being employed, whether with a diploma or degree, the one thing that didn't happen, you were never posted to where you came from. Never.
That is true. And that happened with NYSC. I'm just thinking immediately to Nigeria because you were deliberately posted in an area that you had no knowledge of. And this was for you to understand what happened in other parts of the country. So if you went to school in Lagos State, you would be posted to Gongola, which was northwestern Kenya.
There's such a place.
Yes, you'd be posted to. So you grew up and lived all your life.
Where is it near, this Gongola?
It is near. How do I say this now?
Which country is it near?
It's
Which
actually, it's bordering Niger.
That's what I thought, yes.
Okay. So you grew up in southwestern Nigeria, right? And then now you were posted
To the
top west part of the country.
It's like
Lamu
coming
to Turkana.
yes, or it's like Kiambu to Garbatula. Yes.
It sounds like Gongola. So what I was saying, but it was deliberate. So for you to have some knowledge of what was happening around the country. Now, to say that perhaps this is a way of doing that for students to, also for them to have an opportunity to see what happens in other parts.
Actually,
of the
algorithms don't.
Of course, it's not deliberate like that.
do
But
that.
I'm saying here's an opportunity for that to actually be accepted. However, what I'm saying is that, look, algorithm system, people have found ways to manipulate
They'll play the system.
And I am saying that here we've opened up just another opportunity for this to take place, and it is going to happen. There are parents who are not going to accept this. They are going to pay their way. Like you said, who owns the system will be seen.
So there are corrupt parents who are going to try and corrupt the system.
In this case, they're desperate parents
who will act corruptly in the interest of their children.
All right. Desperate.
So even if you have the government not
the child
even
has
not
gone to a place
wanting,
they don't know about,
right?
Or
that they are not comfortable with.
For now, this second round where you need to transfer your people, what you're supposed to do is, first of all, a school must declare that there is a vacancy available, after which the request is uploaded to the NEMIS. So first, students must report to the school, and then the headmaster realizes, all right, so I was supposed to admit 30 students, only 25 turned up. Then you go to the system and say, I have 5 vacancies. Those vacancies go to NEMIS. The school must also have been part of the choices made by the candidate during the application process. Now, it means that if student Eric had applied to join this school, one of the choices was this particular school, and student Eric has also applied to be transferred, you can match me. If I had not applied to join this school, no matter what my parent wishes, there's no way NEMIS will transfer me to that school.
NEMIS on its own, Abi. But you must understand that there are people who are operating this NEMIS. Or is it a robot? No. There are people who operate this NEMIS that we're
You've
talking
reduced
about.
the incidences of corruption.
Actually, you've shifted it.
You've moved it to somebody
I think
else's
you've
hand.
reduced it.
No. You've moved the corruption to somebody else's
Eric,
hand.
By the
Literally.
time a parent in Kisumu finds out who's controlling this particular system.
I want you to just pause for a single second. Just stop with that thought. The parent in Kisumu has relatives in Nairobi.
And
Yes.
the relative in Nairobi must know the person who's operating the system.
They will know. This is Kenya.
Somebody will know somebody who knows
They
somebody.
will know. You don't even have to know. You just need to ask. They will know.
Even the headmasters that you're talking about now.
I think Eric has a point. It's a centralized system. Of course, it's electronic or digital. It's much harder to bribe than, say, the individual headmasters and so forth. So
It's harder.
if you imagine
Before this, when it was manual, you'd actually just approach the headmaster. Headmaster City Muga Muzee. namna gani?
Mzuri
Unajua
sana.
kijana yangu
Yes.
alifanya vizuri sana.
Yes.
Lakini sasa naona ameitwa aende Garbatula.
Yes.
Sasa unajua uko ni mbali sana.
Hiyo shida tunaweza kutatua.
Tutasaidiana namna gani?
Hiyo kwanza si ngumu sana.
You see?
Yes.
Chap and we are sorted. Now
So
we're
with
telling-
Nemis, what you gonna
with
do?
Nemis now you have to go mzee, unajua mtu Nairobi. Sasa hiyo kuna jamaa
Yeah,
anajua
you're right. It's much harder. It's been centralized.
anafanya mitihani
No,
house.
it is new.
My
That's
guy-
what
new, but
it-
it
my
is not
guy
it's just
impossible.
new.
We're not
It's-
saying it's impossible, but it makes it much harder for the bribery
actually,
to
it makes
happen.
it easier. You've centralized it.
No,
It
then
makes
it's
it-
harder
Before
for
you
a
had to talk
parent
to
from
individual
Turkana-
headmasters all over
all
the
over the
place.
country.
Now you've centralized it. It's in one place and a few individuals controlling
No,
it.
The fact that
we've
it's
talked
an
about
electronic
how
system
we've
or-
controlled exam cheating. The same way, NEMI's centralized system, we have actually managed to fight it. Same. You could be saying that, well, now we know who can run this, who can get the papers out for us. You can't. Somebody has to go and log in into this system, and it leaves a trail. Who logged in? What did they do when they were logged in?
It's a lot more
My
airtight,
friend.
I think.
What other kind of system have we had in the
Kimeumana.
country where somebody needed to log in something
No,
and
no,
have
no.
We
certain
just-
results
Let's not take it
played
far.
out and
There's
it
one
still
called-
managed
there's
to
one
happen?
called if miss.
So which
If
other
miss.
Thank you.
It was not just foolproof, it was bulletproof.
telling you.
But if
And
that's been
still,
abused,
they
it's by
managed.
people within the office. It's
That
not
thing
individuals.
has
is-
caused
that
even
is
more
what we're talking
problems
about. Still
than
people like
existed
We're saying,
before
yes,
it.
we're saying yes, there is still scope for
What if Miss has
manipulation.
done is if Miss has exposed the people who are actually trying to manipulate it. That's how come we know you can be jailed or you can be taken to court, because we can track and see who logged on to IFMIS, when was approval given, who approved it, when was money released. You can track it back. That's the joy and beauty of having such a centralized system as NEMIS. Nyinyi na KUPPET mumeshikwa.
Unajua, I wish I could be more positive, but I cannot be.
This is Kenya.
Yeah, no, it's not just it's Kenya. It's the human element in everything we're discussing here. So long as there's a human element, and if you have the sort of history we have with and procedural processes which we have christened as corruption, then it's an uphill task. No
Unless
matter-
it's you walk into a room and there's that machine, you speak to the machine and the machine is the one that answers you. There's no human being that's operating anything.
That's fine.
Then maybe
So
you
it's
can tell me
completely
that.
automated.
That's a robot talking to you.
We take the servers out of the country.
Eric cannot. That
Aha,
kind
but
of thing.
Eric has actually explained it even better. Yes, and then you don't open the server.
What I don't get is so many parents are unhappy with the selection system. Why don't they change the selection system?
But they've just changed it now.
This is a new one.
But
This is
a
new,
new one.
new improved.
but parents
New
are still
improved.
unhappy.
Parents are unhappy. Wouldn't you be unhappy? You're with your child in a day school in Nairobi. Then the system you've selected tells you that your child is going to
A boarding school in
Busia,
Northeastern
a boarding
Province.
school in Northeastern Province.
And you want your child, you want to see
You
your
want
child
your
in
child in
Nairobi.
alliance.
Well, yeah. So I
You
mean,
will
why
allow-
have they made it so that that can happen?
Because they wanted to curb this other ill of parents going to see headmasters previously, when you would make a selection and they would just come and play out that scenario that Eric and City just did
You
for
know, let
us
me
now when you
explain to
say,
you how
"Bwana headmaster, my
how
child."
perverse it
Haiwezekani bana.
was. You'd find there were certain headmasters. This was in the time when I myself was a headmaster. Maybe I'm certain it changed thereafter.
Of course.
But I'm positive it changed.
Yes.
What would happen is you'd find a headmaster creates a class. That class is specifically for that sort of person who needs help.
Yes.
These other classes, let's say you declare 4 streams.
Stream
Goes
A-
through that process,
ABC
everything.
is
Then
clear.
there's this stream E specifically for these people who have specific problems. That's where that child goes. And that money ends directly in the pocket of the head
Of the
teacher.
head
But as I said, it happened in the previous century
It
when I
doesn't
was a head
happen
teacher.
anymore.
I'm sure it
Now
doesn't
we have
happen
more,
now.
we have
Yes.
better head teachers. You know,
Yes.
they don't do such
No,
kind of things.
honest, God-fearing
They-
people.
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
These are all state schools, of course, not private schools.
Private school, it doesn't need to happen. You don't have those
You don't
restrictions.
have those
You
restrictions
decide
at
who
all.
you want to take and who you don't.
And
Yes.
remember in Kenya, so the number of private schools versus public schools is actually skewed. Primary, you have more private schools.
Schools and
You have
private, yes, and public.
in secondary, then you have fewer private schools in secondary, at the secondary level. Many of them are public schools. We'd love to know your experience on this. Are you a parent who's has seen that your child has been posted to a school that you've never heard of? And what are you thinking of doing? Do you agree with this NEMIS system and the new way? Or are you seeing that, we should open it up and go back to the old ways where we could, find amicable ways of ensuring that our children are going to school? And it works. 0719-012-600. Let me just open up those phone lines so you can call in 0719-012-600. The conversation has also been posted on Facebook where we're live streaming Spice FM KE. And Twitter, our hashtag is The Situation Room. Just call us and let us engage on this.
You know what this new Nemes is sounding like? A travel agency.
And where would you like to go today?
Oh, yes, where would you like for the next 4 years.
We're sorry, the visa requirements for that particular area more stringent for people from your area. There is visa on arrival.
Now, with
Here
the
you have to
flooding,
apply for
apart
visa.
from the metal box that you carry, you need to go with a boat. Yes.
Are you prepared for that? If not, let's have a conversation. 0719-012-600. It's 7:45.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So the phone lines are open, 0719-012-600. We'd love to know what your views are on this particular issue. So the NEMIS, the transfer of the admission of students to secondary schools, people who have been taken from one county to across 7 counties.
Literally.
Are there enough secondary schools? Are there people who are going to miss out altogether?
Now, according to this system, nobody is missing
Nobody's
out.
missing out. And there was a promise from the ministry. CS Mago has said, look, all credit to him and his team. They said, look, nobody's going to miss a school. The details of where it's going to be, that was not their issue.
Actually,
but nobody is going to miss school this year.
They didn't promise happiness.
They didn't promise
happiness.
Like
They
that
said
bus.
school.
This is the last bus departing here.
Everybody
Nobody is going to be
left behind.
Yes.
Whether you get a seat or not, that's not the issue. Wawero is calling from
You'll be on the
Nairobi.
bus.
Good morning, Wawero.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, about that issue of which school your child goes to,
Yes.
I truly believe we should follow the IFMIS system.
Nemis.
I am NEMIS system.
Yes.
I am a military man.
Is the educational version of IFMIS. Yes.
I am a military man by training,
Right.
Yes.
having attended a primary school in Nairobi. And when I left the primary school, I went to a school in Shags, what we called Shags then, in that I did not go to a school in Nairobi, but left to go to an up-country school. When I was deployed from training in the military, my first deployment was out of Nairobi. I was actually posted to a place in Nakuru. Now, what that experience has taught me is that I became a better Kenyan. We must stop this habit of saying that because your child grew up in Nairobi, he cannot go to a place, to school in another place. What rubbish is that? Kenyans should be for Kenyans. Everyone should be able to go anywhere. And I think it was Nyeri who said about a town called Tongolo or Gongolo somewhere in
That was Ndu.
It was Ndu.
Yes. Ndu, near Gongolo or something like that. Gongola.
Yes.
Yeah, that should be the way it is. Where did this thing come about? As long as the education system is equal, where did we get this thing that you must remain in Nairobi?
Do you have children?
Or you must remain in your... Yes.
You have children. You would be happy to have them 700 kilometers away from you? Just even the distance, the proximity. You would be okay with
He's
that?
a military man.
Of course he would.
That answers everything.
Find out what happens. Let him find out what happens elsewhere. That is why we have boys now who, that suicide thing, and boys are being disappointed by girls and they don't know how to react.
They're
It's because
sissies.
they've been brought up thinking that they must be in Nairobi. Where did that thing come from?
Point taken. You asked when did it start? It's around the time when we got something called district focus. Prior to that, the very thing you're saying is what used to happen. People would be taken all over the place, all over.
And we asked guys who did A-levels,
Yes.
you did your A-levels and went to where you were called.
Yeah.
Yes.
If the school was in Murang'a, so be it.
You went
You
there.
go there.
Yes.
Yes.
And did that work for
And you learned
cohesion
how
in
the
terms of...
people in Murang'a lived,
Yeah.
and you got to know people in Murang'a,
Yep.
and if you needed to learn Kikuyu, so be it.
Actually,
Indeed.
by the time the 2 years were
You
over,
actually
you
learnt
learnt it.
Kikuyu.
You spoke it fluently.
Waweru, thank you very much for contributing this morning.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Have a good
Waweru.
day. 0719-012-600 is the phone number to call it. We'd like for you to give us your experience on this. We know, of course, the new education system, the new placement system, the NAMIS, is taking students according to where they're selected. Now, we must always remember that. It's according to what the student selected. If you are a parent that you do not know where your student selected, your son selected or daughter, those are different issues. We have Kuria. Kuria is in Nyeri. Good morning, Kuria.
Good morning, how are you?
Good
Salam
morning.
alaikum.
I want to contribute to today's discussion.
Yes.
There is no way, and I will use a very good example. You know, in seedlings, I do agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
And once the cabbage is in a nursery bed, you have to do hardening off for it to go to the seed bed, okay?
Mm-hmm.
There is no way you're going to tell me that you will be enrolled to Githurai Primary, go to Githurai Secondary, go to Githurai University, and you expect to be a nationalist. Come on. So for me, that army person who has just spoken
Yep.
has just stated that he went out of Nairobi to study.
Yep.
That's why you hear that he is hardened off even in his argument. I remember, personally, once we finished Kagumo High School, we had to go to A level in Uganda. Then we are admitted to Makerere University.
Yep.
I can guarantee you my best friend was from Nyanza. Eric Okot Genga. Up to date, he is my best friend.
There you go.
Now, whatever I just stayed around Kagumo High School, Kagumo University, would I be hardened off?
That's true.
No, probably not.
So my sentiment or argument is this: if a child or my son is called to Maranda High School, let him go there.
You'll go to Maranda.
But then let him go there, because once in a while you'll get to know what else or what helps Maranda High School prosper.
Thank you, Kuria.
Yes, that's my contribution.
Thank you,
Asante
Kuria.
sana. Otieno in Kisumu. Good morning, Otieno.
Good morning. How are you?
Good,
Fine,
thank you,
thank you.
Tieno.
Now, I'm calling from Kisumu. My contribution is
Yes.
what the military guy has said is very good, that we need to know Kenya. Then we have the cohesion aspect coming in. Personally, I went to Maranda from Kisumu boys because I wanted a boarding, but it has done me more harm than good, because I wanted to interact with other Kenyans in where people experience different things, so that I can also be that whole-rounded person.
Yep.
Yeah, but the idea of if it is good, what worries parents is that if you, like me, I've had a chance to work in a place called Hagadera in Garissa, but the worry of my people was that the security was not good there. There were no roads. Yes. So if my child could go to Garbatula, Hagadera, Garissa Boys, I would not have a problem. But then, in the event of, let's say, things like terror attack, what would the government do to safely evacuate people? We are not being condemned to go and die. No, we are being sent to go and learn and come back and build the nation.
And be a better person.
And be a better person. But you find that when there are disasters, you get to hear things like condoms were bought at 30,000 shillings, bus up at 7,000. Those are monies for disaster. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, Otieno. Asante sana. Your point is made. Your point is made. Let me pick Enoch in Eldoret. Good morning, Enoch.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to contribute the conversation.
Yes.
And I want to agree with Waweru. I am a law student here in Mo University Annex. And I have seen people from different parts of the country. And many of them made choices, and they were blessed. And some of them wanted to go to University of Nairobi, for instance, but they found themselves in Mo University. And I want to put it this very clearly, that I am a product of diversity. I went to a school in Nyanza myself, from my secondary school. And that taught me a lot of things, including the need to appreciate that not all people are the same. You will find people who are different.
Yeah.
So parents should stop this idea of, pursuing their own selfish interest at the expense of the children's interest. Yes, we want places where it is convenient convenient for us to access these children. But the question again that should be, what are the interests of the child, including this child becoming a better citizen? And you cannot become a better citizen if you stay in the same environment where you grew up and studied. You need to change of environment so that you appreciate that there is a diversity, and in that sense, you can be a better citizen. And in the age of globalization, we would be doing injustice to being a global citizen if we just stick to the idea of sticking to where is convenient.
Right.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Enoch. 0719-012-600. Contributions, of course, are coming in. Most of the ones who are calling now are saying they support this whole idea.
Right, support the system.
Support the system. None of them has said that my child is one of those affected. I'd love to hear from a parent whose child has actually been posted, not necessarily to a school that is near them, but a school they've never heard of. A county they've never heard of.
There's something that they've all seemed to say, which I think is worth noting, is cohesion. They all carry on.
I have another one. This is Kimutai from Nairobi. Good morning, Kimutai.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I think I'm a teacher by profession. I've been teaching Turkana. Now, I want to look at a scenario. We have a child in Turkana whose parents are really struggling with the issue of school fees.
Yep.
And on top of that, this parent is being forced actually to look for the transport fee, maybe from Turkana to Kilifi. That is almost 5,000 shillings.
To and fro.
Yes, to and fro. I mean, is it logic? This is a parent who is struggling to look for school fees, and on the other hand, the parent is against looking for the transport. At the end of the day, some of the children are going to be disadvantaged. As the government is talking about 100% transition, that is from grade 8 to Form 1. I don't think whether it will work, having in mind that we have some areas that parents are really struggling with the issues of school fees. And there are other issues with of transport that we are looking here. I think if it would have been better if some areas could have been looked at in a different way and be given like a different opportunity, like Turkana, for instance.
Yeah. So you look at the distance that the child has to travel going to school.
Yes.
Thank you, Kimutai. Thank you, Kimutai. Good point. It's actually a strong point. You know, having gone to one of those schools, you'd look at pupils who, at the end of the term, would look for a place to stay. In fact, teachers used to accommodate a couple of students who come from far-flung areas because you're thinking, we have only closed for 3 weeks. By the time this guy gets home and starts the journey to come back,
they should be coming back.
Yeah.
But also, remember, it is for the reason similar to this and this one that you have bursary systems. And that is why the system exists where children of this sort who have done well, it goes up, whether it's at the CDF level, whether it's even at the county level, and then also at the national level. Even the government still gives bursaries. So that is where the bursary now comes in. That's where it sorts this out. And if you look at very many constituents in this country, you will find similar stories as the one that this Mwalimu has mentioned. And you will find that very many MPs and people who are in leadership have set up a system that caters for such students.
Right.
Yes. Because they understand that this will happen.
Yeah. Okay. We hear a lot of, again, looking at the fact that people might not have an issue with this in terms of sending their children away to have an education in different parts of the country, and it will not be an issue for them. Still is the point that we'll have many parents who will attempt to beat the system. And I think that also says quite a lot about us in terms of, what are we willing to do to make sure that I am comfortable and also that my children
But
are
remember, the
comfortable.
people who've called in, if I am not right in my understanding, they are of a certain generation.
Yes.
If you went to Form 5 and 6, that's another generation. And the thinking of that time was
Quite different.
Quite different from the modern day parent. Yes. Who actually went through the 844 system.
Even within that generation, by the way, you'd still hear of people who of a certain generation will tell you, I had been admitted to go, for example, having gone to a primary school in Nairobi, and then I'd been admitted to go to a school in Moranga, and I vehemently opposed that, and my parents agreed with me, and therefore they looked for a nearby school for me to go to.
Yes.
So it always is there, but now we're seeing a situation where we have more and more of those Nairobi or those people who are feeling, well, I don't want my child to go very far. Others are actually also considering what the teacher has just told us, can I really afford to send this?
Regardless of what that selection is.
But Eric, this is where now the private schools come in.
If you cannot afford transport,
public school.
boss,
You're not going to afford a private
0719 012 600, it's 8 o'clock. This is the Situation Room.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, still taking a look around the city. Mananja Road traffic is at a standstill, and this is in Donholm, Savannah. And outer ring interchange is the same. And unfortunately, there's no escape route. And it is, literally bumper to bumper around the city, wherever it is that you're going. We must understand that the reason for this is that there are very many pools of water in different areas, and people are not quite sure how to maneuver them. So people are going much slower than they normally would. And this is contributing to the traffic factor this morning. Outer ring service lanes are fully jammed, and if you can avoid them, please do. Looking at different parts of the city, Limuru Road, the Ruai Bypass, Haile Selassie to Ngong Road, Valley Road, Bagavi Way, Ngong Road, they're all parking zones right now because of this issue. Jogo Road is at a total gridlock right now. So it's going to be a slow morning, and with the rains pounding down the way they did the whole night, this is to be expected, and you need to plan your trips over the next couple of days like this. And this is what we've been advised about. 0719 012 600. There's something we need to send an alert about. Please do let us know, and we will.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Nyeri Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
We're talking about secondary school admission. Of course, 1 million plus students want start for their KCPE, and all of them are expected to transition to secondary school. And then we have some issues there. We've opened up the phone line 0719 012 600. Ahmed is in Mombasa. Good morning, Ahmed.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good, thank you. Good morning.
Good. All right. I want to contribute based on what I've experienced, especially in Kilifi County.
Yep.
You see, kids have been admitted to schools which are very far from their homes. And you find these guys are very, very economically down. And they have to now think of transport and so on. So another option these guys have been doing is to get a room for their kids.
Yep.
In those areas where they are going to school. And the problem that I've really seen is that these kids, especially the girls, they end up in relationships with the border riders. Because there's no one there to control them, no one there to monitor them, no one there to guide them.
Yeah.
They live on their own. And that's a very, very, very sad reality that I've experienced regarding this program.
So Ahmed, this
They should-
you're talking about now students being admitted to day schools.
Day school, yes.
I
Day
see.
school. Not even boarding school. Day school.
So
And
because
they're
it's
far
so
away
far
from
from
home.
They are far away. Like they have to spend like 200 just going. 200, 300 just going. So the parents now option is to get a room for the kids.
Yeah.
But you see, there's no one to control them, no one to monitor them, no one to guide them.
True.
Just after the school, they go home to their rooms, and you'll find out they get this sexual relationship and with the border riders and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Which now it's not contributing to their learning. In fact,
Of
it's
course,
just
or their livelihoods.
breaking them.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Ahmed.
What's your suggestion, Ahmed? What do you think the solution would be, or should
The
be?
solution should be the same as before. You know, you don't have to send kids very far away. Where you see the economic status is not the same.
Yeah.
People they're struggling.
So we
People
go
are
back to the
struggling.
manual
Majority
way,
are
or just factor in the distance.
Yes.
Asante.
Yes.
Asante, Ahmed. Let me pick Zach. Zach is in Kiambu. Good morning, Zach.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Fine, thank you.
Let's not be hypocritical with the truth and facts. How do you expect a parent who is suffering economically, in the current state of economy that we are in the country, to afford to pay school fees for a kid traversing more than 200 kilometers away from home? Let us agree here. As a parent, you have to keep an eye on your child. You have to make routine checkups. Hata kwa shule, hata kama ni boarding, hata kama ni day school.
Yep.
Really, how do you expect somebody or a kid who is more than 750 kilometers away from home, how do you check up on him or her? And the second thing, unapata mtoi, first of all, I have to agree with Ahmed. A kid has been admitted in a day school that is more than 10 kilometers away from home.
Yeah.
This person, you have to pay fare daily. Or you take an alternative. Get a room nearby the school and let her live there or him. Now, these kids engage in drugs, premarital sex. It's absurd. Let us be true.
Let's be truthful to the realities.
And with facts.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you. Esther is in Mombasa. Good morning, Esther.
Hi, morning. How are you?
Morning,
Fine,
Esther.
thank you.
I'm fine, thank you. I wanted to contribute in regard to the school issue.
Yes.
I first of all think that I tend to agree to some of the people who have commented, and others I do not agree. But we are not also putting into consideration what the child really wants. You can understand the topic we had the other day about children saying that maybe the parents are really on their case wanting to live the life they would have wanted to live. By the time a kid goes to Form 1, they are around 13 years old or 14 years old. They are still in their adolescence, young age. So I see a gap where the parents trust the teachers, because you have to have that trust that the school is a school that will take care of your child, or else you will not take your children to any school. They'll just do homeschooling. So the parents have to have that trust to the teachers. And then the school, we are having, of course, those problems of social interactions and the issues of so much insecurity and all that. That is what should be taken care of by maybe the government on that part, whereby each school is given maybe just they should have those principles and all that. So there is a fear on the side of the parents, and also there is the need or the desires of the children, and the parents also not wanting them to go so far.
Right.
Because they are scared of unknown reasons which maybe could affect or not affect, and then there's no trust of not of the system, of the school.
Of the schools
and you
themselves.
find a lot of people just mtoto akitwa shule, like the one who said, how will this child who has come from a lowly family adjust?
Right.
It's true, because I had a case where a kid came from coast and went to this school very far away, I think Nakuru or those sides, and the kid just dropped drastically because they have never ever left they have grown up in, and they don't know any other life other than that lowly life. So
Thank
she was
you.
like cultural shock. Nobody's there to guide.
Thank
so
you,
there's
Esther.
all those mix up of all those. Yeah. Thanks.
Asante. Still staying in Mombasa. Paul, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's a good show today, and I think I would just want to contribute a few things. One is, I think it's just hypocrisy to try and say that people don't want their kids to go far away or a distance from where they are. Because if the same kid is called to Lenana or Mangu or Alliance, from Mandera or Kilifi,
They will
they will jump. Really,
Yes.
they will really run to it. But if the same kid from Nairobi is called to those areas, now it becomes an issue of distance. That's hypocrisy to me. I think the basic thing is we are trying to be very selfish to ourselves, that we only want those schools because they have made a name through time. And if the kids have actually done the way they have done, they got the marks they got, whichever school they are taken to, what the government is supposed to do is just to make sure that all the schools have the principals that are supposed to be principals in schools, and not shopkeepers somewhere. Because if you have real principals, then those schools will grow and will become the same schools we looked up to. I remember sometimes back when people used to jump up when they are called to Western schools.
Right.
But because the level of education has gone down, or the whatever happened, no more people want to go to Western because the standards have lowered. So
Strong point.
even the Darbatula school
Used to be a
even the
very good one,
Darbatula
actually.
school, they are talking, yes, and people used to want. Actually, everyone wanted my kid to be called to Garbatula, and it's not this. So the issue is not what we are talking about, distance and everything. The issue is we are scared about the level of education there, and that should just be addressed by the government. And if more people are taken to those schools, I believe these elite parents will also go to those schools as parents there,
And see what's
will
going on.
force the schools to work
To improve.
better than they are doing.
Thank you very much, Paul. And thank you very much for all the calls that you've called in this morning on 0719-012-600. The conversation continues on our social media handles. Spice FM KE on Facebook. Spice FM KE is our Twitter handle. Hashtag The Situation Room. Of course, we are broadcasting from Nairobi to the world. Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi. And we're live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and www.spicefm.co.ke. It's 11 minutes past 6 o'clock. Plus 8 o'clock. Good morning.
Spice, everything nice.
12 minutes after 8 o'clock, this is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Eric Latif. We have Nduoko, we have C.T. Muga and Jerry Thorne. Parking on the streets of Nairobi. Not just the streets, actually, just
Not
parking anywhere in
and
Nairobi.
not just Nairobi either.
Countrywide.
Parking countrywide. Of course, it's come to the fore because the court has recently suspended the new parking fees that I was going to say Sonko, but the city council had county rather.
The Nairobi City County government.
Yes. They had imposed, of course, they had hiked it up 100%. So it went from 200 shillings to 400 shillings. But a Nairobi court yesterday suspended the new parking levy that had been introduced by City Hall until a case filed by Consumer Federation of Kenya, COFEC, is determined. So my contention today, the county has been using, not just Nairobi County, a lot of counties are using parking fees as a revenue stream. Parking fees should be used to control and manage traffic. We have a right as Kenyans to park, to stand, to go anywhere without having to pay. Now, we've paid for these roads in taxes over the years previously. So the fact that the county is now, or a lot of counties are using this as a revenue stream, is actually a breach of our rights as Kenyans. They should use it simply to control and manage traffic. So if you're charging, yes, you can charge, but just so that you can control and manage traffic, not so that you can make money as a county. So this is wrong. It's a breach of our rights, and I think we need to take up arms. Well, not take up arms, but we need to speak back to the counties. We need to know our rights as Kenyans.
How do you know the 400 bobos not controlling traffic?
The fact that they can double it. Previously at 200 they were able to control it. They themselves have spoken of it. I've got quotes here from City Hall about the fact that they need to raise revenue so they can deliver services. No, this is not a way to raise revenue for a government.
Actually, they reduced that parking. It was 300.
300, it went to 200, and then they've doubled it back to 400.
But you do understand, of course, that tariffs tend to increase with time. It's a very rare occurrence when they actually go down. So, and one of the ways in which you actually get to collect revenue, if you're an entity like, say, a council, now we're talking about a county, is by raising tariffs.
Now, this is my point today, in that you can raise tariffs, but you have to remember we have already paid a tariff for that road in the first instance. The roads, the town was built with our taxes, so we as Kenyans have a right to be there. The county is collecting about, this is Nairobi County, 1.5 million shillings every day from parking. Now, I don't have a problem with them actually enforcing parking tariffs if it's to control traffic, but we as Kenyans should be able to go where we want, park where we want, without having to pay for it within our country. So it is actually a breach of our rights if they're going to use this as a revenue stream. It's been so normalized that you laugh, Eric, but it is actually quite absurd.
I'm laughing because I want to ask you, how else do you want a government to raise the revenue for services that it's offering?
Government, yes.
It does.
Even a national government.
Well, why not charge you for breathing then? You know, where are they going to stop? Why not charge you for breathing
because
the
they're
air?
not offering that service.
What service are they offering in terms of parking?
Your nose doesn't
I'm
require
getting the
space to
oxygen.
function apart from being in
No.
your body.
Soon they'll start charging you for oxygen.
Because
What I'm
I'm
saying,
looking at it this way. So the government is required to raise revenue through various channels, right? So one of them, of course, will be the parking fee. That you come and you're accessing this particular slot for X number of hours. You're gonna pay for that.
Who does that slot belong to, though?
The county.
You and the county, you as a Kenyan. This
Yes,
is my
you
point.
as a Kenyan.
What I'm saying
Now,
is, if
what
we
you're
don't
doing
limit
is-
this, we will find that we'll be paying the county to breathe in oxygen because
Okay.
they'll say
If
it
we
is
go
their
be-
space, it is their atmosphere, it
If
is
we
their
go
environment.
beyond that in terms of revenue collection, if you go to markets, then should we not be paying for markets
That
to
you're
have a
renting.
stall?
No, that you're renting out.
To have a
as-
sto-
no, that you're renting
But
out.
you have
as
paid all
space.
the other. You
With
have paid
traffic-
all the other taxes to actually be able to access these
with-
markets
with-
and to
with
trade wherever
traffic,
you want.
That's a business setup, and that's different. With traffic, and a lot of traffic acts, even globally, you'll find the intention is to control traffic. You shouldn't be looking to try and raise revenue from.
This country is called Kenya, and we don't have to follow those international processes. The truth of the matter is that particular space in the middle of town is actually owned by that county, whether it's on behalf of the national government or not, but they own it. And if you wish,
Well,
if
the roads
it's
are
an
also
option,
owned. Should we then use a pay every
We do
time
pay.
we use a road?
We do
Should
pay.
we pay?
Yes.
We,
We do
we
pay.
don't pay a levy. You don't
We
have
do.
a tax. What, through road tax?
through
Yes, we do.
fuel,
Through
fuel levy,
Fuel levy.
Fuel
we
levy.
pay.
Yes.
We do pay.
And
when-
soon with like now the elevated highway
that
that
fuel
we're gonna
levy
have,
or those
you'll
levies
toll
have been
stations.
used to build these roads, to build these parking spaces, and so on. We don't pay again
But-
to
but
use that road. This
Jerry,
is
the
my
same-
point.
You see, the parking is the same as the buildings, which are actually situated on land that was owned by, and people pay land rates.
The buildings are owned by individuals or
Yes,
corporates
but
or
that
what have
land,
you, and you
then
can
why
pay
do you-
rent.
why do you then
But
pay
in
land
terms
rates and
of-
you own it?
In terms of even that, I contest. I mean, in terms of raising revenue, government looks for every angle. There's even talk of trying to tax dowries. KRA.
Some
I
fake
think.
news.
It was fake news. I wouldn't be surprised because look at things like even inheritance tax.
Chini.
Even inheritance
well,
tax.
it was chini, but the conversation was being had.
Oh, the conversation was being had, was it?
Chini.
No, my point is it's just been so normalized that we don't realize. So yes, we might pay for fuel for roads through the fuel levies, but similarly, we've paid for those parking spaces already through other levies to have built those parking spaces. So other than for the sake of traffic control, you do not need to be raising revenue from that. There's a lot of revenue streams and opportunities, and counties should be innovative.
Like which ones in Nyeri?
For how do counties make money?
No,
They can have
these many
festivals. They can
revenue
invite
streams.
Oh, parking is not the only one.
Which
in
one?
fact, parking should be. There's many others. They can have a festival and invite people. And
business permits, is it okay?
Business licenses.
Is that okay?
You know, those are yearly. Those are yearly.
Yes, you pay to operate business within the city.
Should you pay to operate business within the city, and yet you're still going to pay income tax from the business?
No, I don't believe you should pay.
All right. Should you pay to own a building in this county?
To own a building?
Yes.
Once you've owned it, no, I don't think you should pay.
Or land?
I don't. I'm against a lot of taxes, and we accept them because they've been normalized over time.
Should you pay to
but
register
today,
a
what
birth
I'm talking about,
or death?
No.
So
those are services.
How do you expect this government to raise revenue?
Yes.
What are the creative ways?
There's income tax. They get their money from there, and there's consumer tax. After that, you're now pushing it because you're going to start taxing the oxygen we breathe. You're going to start taxing the conversations we have. Any exchange with anybody, they're trying to come in and tax. We heard today Uber is going to be taxed. They're going to go onto those platforms and tax you, which is income.
Conversation is already taxed.
Is it?
Airtime.
Yes.
No, I mean, if you're sat
There's
face
an
to face,
excise duty for
yes.
If you're sat face to face having a conversation with somebody at, say, a bus stop, no, that's not taxed. What I'm saying is they could get to a point where they tax it. And believe it or not, as absurd as it sounds, it's just that taxing us or collecting money from us when we park, it's just been normalized. But this is our country. You should be able to park wherever you want, just in the same way you can drive wherever you want without being charged.
Are you saying
You've already paid for it. So my point is it should not be used as a revenue stream. They should calculate and do the finances whereby they're charging just enough to control the traffic, not to try and make money.
And
out
how
of
much
this
would
to
be
What if they
deliver
told
services.
you that the 400 is enough to
You'd need
control
financial
traffic?
guys.
In fact,
no,
if you look
they're
at,
going above this. They themselves
one
have
of the
said.
former city clerks, Philip Kisia, he raised a furore some time back when he said, you know what, parking in the CBD should be considered as caviar. It's expensive. If you want to come and park here, you should pay a lot more than you're parking, than you pay for parking in South B. And that's the reason why parking in the CBD, like now this one, 400 bob, is parking within the CBD and Kijabe Street. If you go outside of those areas, go to Ngara, go to Hurlingham, go to Kilimani, go to the other areas, the fee is lower.
So is it with a mind to decongest the city?
Yes, that's the argument.
In this sense that they're trying to get vehicles to stay out of the city because
as a deterrent. So it's acting as a deterrent.
Right. So that you don't have, because that has been the contention for so long, that getting into the city, you spend 30 minutes doing your business, but you spend 4 hours trying to get in and out of the city, right? 2 hours getting in, 2 hours getting out. So if you're gonna come and park in the city, then you need to pay, and then it will stop a lot of people from actually doing that.
They have that. They actually had a congestion charge in London. If you're not even going to park, if you're going to drive through London between certain hours to decrease or to deter cars from actually coming in, they were charging a congestion charge of £8 just for you to drive through.
Don't you consider that a creative way of raising revenue?
No, it wasn't. That acted as a deterrent. No. That acted as a deterrent.
They know the number of people who work within the CBD, and they know this number of people will require to drive into the CBD at some point. They already know we have caught you in other ways. So we are just making sure that because you're coming to the CBD, we will raise revenue from you.
But
it's also a problem. They want to call it.
It's also a problem because you have a lot of the business that people want to interact smack in the middle of the city. And it's probably another clarion call to have some of these offices or some of these establishments taken out of the city that a lot of prosperous cities have actually done.
The solution is to
decongest the city. Because if you look at a lot of cities around the world, they've done this and say, okay, have them in some dormitory areas of the capital city, for example, so that you don't have everybody coming in. Like some of the cities that you see in Europe, for example. Yes, you have, if you look at Paris, you have the Bourse and all of this, but the people who park in the city, you will see very few cars in the city because you can actually go do your business outside of the city, and you'll have an office headquarters offices in the city, yes, but then you'll have other offices that will give you the same service as it were if you went into the city, but you don't have to contend with that because the service is available outside. So if you want to say, if we want to deal with the problem, it's really not about parking, raising the fee. You really want to deal with the problem, decongest the
so
city.
if we say
wherever
that,
it's decongested, do you want to pay parking for wherever it is? Even if now it goes, we have taken up all the dormitory areas. So we've moved some government offices and crucial services outside of the CBD. We've taken them to Kiambu. Do you want to pay for parking in that Kiambu?
No, nobody should
Actually,
pay
not
for parking.
Kiambu, Nairobi National Park. That is where you should take the seat of government. Just outside the CBD, but not too far away from
Create
everywhere.
a new CBD.
Just create it there, yes. So
Create
it's
a new
not too
CBD
far
and
away.
congest it.
But it's in a nice central place where other people can access it without necessarily going to the CBD. Yes.
Do
Nairobi
you want to pay
National Park.
parking? Do you want to pay for parking there?
I do not mind paying parking.
Jerry, would you? Then does it make sense to
No,
pay
I
for
don't
parking
think
in
we
those
should pay
areas
for parking
at
anyway.
all?
I don't think we should pay for parking anyway. And it's absurd. We pay for parking in malls now. So you go to the supermarket
Where you're
and
going
it's
to
a
spend money.
money-making scheme. Do you understand? It's not to control traffic. It's when it's a money-making scheme. And for some reason, there's been no public outcry from us Kenyans with these supermarkets or these malls. We've gone ahead and, we've gone for this. And it's not even a congested area in that, the supermarket
No,
or
the areas
or the
around
malls.
the areas around the malls are congested. The malls themselves may not be, but the areas around them tend to be.
So you can understand. They say it's to deter people from parking their vehicles there and then taking, so park and ride into the city centre or the CBD. But somewhere like, let's say, the Hub, for instance, who is going to park their car there and then drive into town? Do you see what I mean? And then
No, I
the Hub
think
in Karen.
you may not have the statistics, but there are people who will do that.
Who will park their car?
Yes.
Where are they living?
Because you have security. No, people avoid driving into town because of the congestion you speak of.
Yes.
And if you have a safe parking, you'll park your car there, take public transport, go into town.
Do your business.
You will
Yes, and
park
then
your
come
car
back.
at the Hub in
Yes,
Karen.
and then come back. Yes.
So where do you live exactly? Why
No,
not leave
even
your
if
car
you,
at
even
home?
if you live in Karen.
Ngong.
Why not? Well, leave your car at home.
In Ngong.
Yes, but even if you live in Karen, you don't need, you necessarily live next to the hub.
You don't.
Yes.
You live in Kirarapon in Ngong. Somewhere that's far and you need to access. But then also there are people who may go to park there
In
and they have business within Karen. They'll still access it. So the other argument then, Jerry, would be, why not?
I mean, they do it with hospitals. So
charging parking.
Yes, you're going to
That's
see
madness.
a patient.
Yes, it is. It's an extra
madness.
revenue stream. Though I don't know if the fee for parking goes to the hospital per se. Maybe they get a certain percentage of it. But
Part
there's a
of
company
it-
who's been contracted
part of it
to
has
come
to
in and
do
get it done.
again with security. Because one thing that perhaps isn't spoken about very loudly is that any place where cars stay for a length of time makes those vehicles a target. And in the absence of a system that controls cars going in or out, it is very easy to have your car stolen, for instance, when you've parked it there. Or vandalized. Or. So there is that. And secondly, remember, with
I
the,
don't know. I
with,
don't
with
buy
the
into
advent,
that.
you don't have to.
No.
With the advent of terrorism and heightened security, more and more people feel that even things like parking needs to be managed with a security element so that you know which vehicle has gone
Where
in,
did
etc.,
management become money? So you can manage all those things without charging.
Why don't I give you an example of, say, the airport? So, would you consider it a high security area?
It is.
Yes. So, should anybody just drive in and drive out without there being some security elements?
Well,
to
the fact that we pay doesn't increase security in any way.
It's not.
Part of the reason, if you have a security system, it has to be paid for.
Are you saying they don't have money to pay for security?
I
so
do
they're
not
having
know whether
to
they have
charge us
money
part
or
of the
not.
fees at
The PPP that
Interior
brings in the
Ministry.
security system is where is
It's
what
not
you're
just
paying
security.
for. But then if you look at how much they charge, it's not to cover for those PPP charges. It's basically it's a revenue
profit-making.
stream.
It is a revenue
And it's
stream.
profit making. This is what I'm
It
saying.
is a revenue
shouldn't be
stream. But
profit-making.
you could argue the same and say the duty-free shops should all, for instance, be run by the Kenya Airports Authority. All I'm saying is the Kenya Airports Authority have a business. It is a business. It's a business that provides a service. And it goes along with these other things. Now, if one wants to change it, then one has to legislate and say that anything that is akin to public land cannot and will not be allowed to be
taxable. Well, you shouldn't
an
be
avenue
making-
for making profit.
Absolutely,
And
especially when the county's primary mandate or agenda should be to deliver services. They do get money from CRA. Yes, they're told.
But please remember, it's pegged. What they get is also pegged to what they raise. So the moment that particular issue was in law, what do you expect the counties are going to do?
But this is what I'm
They look for
saying.
revenue
They
streams.
look
Yes.
for them, but this is absurd. It's just that we have accepted it. That's what I wanted to highlight today. And if we carry on like this, they will be taxing the air we breathe. They will be
But
how many cubicles or
they
how many
can't
cubic,
tax it.
cubic meters
No.
of oxygen
You
did
can't
you actually
tax air.
inhale?
But I do
We'll get
think
to a place
I do
where
think
Or the
that
taxi
there-
for walking around. Every
Even
100 meters there's a toll station.
Absolutely.
Even that they can't do.
I do think though that there are creative ways that cities, and we've seen that cities can actually increase revenue apart from taxes. Accepted that taxes are the primary way that they bring in revenue into. But then you also have fantastic examples of cities around the world who do several things, whether it's by monthly or every year, whereby they do things that bring in a significant amount of income to help to run the city, and it is primarily for that they come up with these things. And so I think we've hinged on taxes and licenses to bring in the money that cities and towns operate on, but we can actually get more creative.
Absolutely.
In terms of how you
Please
bring
give
in
me
money.
examples of this
Look,
creativity.
I'll give you a
Even
fantastic
lost.
example. Right now in Nigeria, it's festival season. The Calabar City Festival is world renowned, actually. But the government of Rivers State came up with this idea to bring in, and it brings in $12 million every December. Tourism, just that city. And they've said and they use that money to run the city. And they do it every year. It started with towns around South Nigeria. And then it got to the bigger Nigeria. And then it got to West Africa. And now you have countries attending this festival 24 days every every December, 12 million shillings every year.
No, dollars.
$12 million
Dollars.
every year. So that's one
The
example.
currency that
there
is called a
parking?
naira.
Thanks you, but
thank you.
dollars.
Is there parking in Calabar City?
I'm sure you have people coming from around the
Do
world.
they
so
pay
come
for the
on.
parking?
Do they pay for parking?
I'm telling you that there are creative ways to raise your income. in this city.
In addition to.
And there are also creative ways of answering questions.
In addition. Jerry Thorne is saying, look, yes, the court has temporarily halted the increase by the Nairobi City County government of parking fees. Of course, it had gone to 400 bob from 200 bob within the CBD and then also increased in other areas. But Jerry is saying, look, we should not be paying for parking anyway from the onset. Because we are taxpayers. We've paid levies.
We can pay. No. I'm reasonable about this. We can pay in order to manage and control traffic. So a very little bit. But when a county now uses this as a revenue stream, as an opportunity or a platform to generate revenue, then we're going wrong. Because next they'll be taxing us, as you say, every 100 meters there's a toll station if you're walking.
So the lines are open. 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. Do you agree with Jerry or do you not? It's 29 minutes to 9 o'clock. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads.
Chilled Spice.
All right, people have been stuck at Syokimau trying to get towards, even past the SGR station, has taken an hour and things are not moving. Jogo Road is a parking lot. Things are moving slowly on Mombasa Road, Jogo Road and Langata Road, unfortunately. So interestingly enough, more roads are coming into this because everybody's talking about the fact that nobody is able to move. There's a graduation at the KMTC main campus today at Kenyatta Hospital. It's always normally a mess, but then now you're combining that with the traffic that's coming off of Ngong Road and also that traffic that is going down Ngong Road into the city. So brace yourselves, folks. It's going to be an interesting day in that area. Donholm also reports of it being a parking lot. Thika is bumper to bumper. Interestingly, all the way to Thika town today. Outer Ring. Oh my goodness, everywhere you look. Eastlands is chock-a-blocked really all around the city and all around that area. So you want to be careful, especially when you're approaching bodies of water of which you do not know the depth. Please do arrive safe and be patient. You'll get there or out eventually.
Spice up your life Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
27 to 9. Good morning. This is Eric calling in from Mombasa. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good
We're
morning.
all fine.
Yeah, very
Morning.
interesting show you have today. Thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to contribute something small about the parking fee. And just to a larger sense of it, I kind of feel like in our country, basically we have a tendency to tax everything that comes to the minds of the people who are left in charge of those offices, or basically to govern the infrastructure that we have in place. Now, with regards to the parking fees, I am a motorist, and I believe that every other motorist out there won't mind paying for the parking charges as long as they get the services that they are promised, or basically that they deserve after you pay for that. For instance, in Mombasa, we do pay for the parking fees. But now it's so unfortunate when you pay and then you park your car there, come back after some few hours, you come and find your side mirror is missing, or maybe somebody has just vandalized your vehicle for no apparent reason. And there are county officials who are there. Now, that actually even leads to some of us who feel like, hey, why are we paying for this kind of service then if we don't even get security? I mean, like for me, I would actually pay if I know my money is worth my while, basically, you know.
Even for the security, you shouldn't have to pay. We pay our taxes in other ways through consumer tax income. The police or the government actually has the task of ensuring that they protect lives and property. So even for security, you shouldn't have to be paying, whether it's a private company at a parking space or the county itself. So it's a shame. We're so far gone, we don't realize some of these things. So you think you're paying the county or you're paying a private parking space and you're then paying for security? The government should provide security, no?
Yes.
So what you're saying is that all these private companies that provide private security services, what we call guards, should actually not exist because the government ought to do that.
Yes. It's just,
so
of course.
When the government is providing some of these services, let's say security, health and others, and building of infrastructure, it is using this from a pool of resources that it has raised from various quarters. What's wrong with using one of them being this low-hanging fruit called parking? People are driving into the CBD, and even whatever you want to call it, by the way, Jerry, saying that you're controlling the way people are accessing, you're using it to control. You can say by raising it so high to 400 bob, that's how you control. If you make it minimal, then you're not controlling.
No, I'm sure there's equations that can be done by, sort of public finance experts and so on, whereby you get to a point you realize actually in order to control the traffic, we only need X amount of money. We should not be making a profit. It shouldn't be a revenue stream because these are Kenyan spaces. They're owned by Kenyans. Imagine what it does to businesses. A lot of businesses maybe want to go into the city.
Before it was reduced to 300, it was 400. Yes, it's not as though this 400 is something
I'm
new.
not even on about the 400. It's just that it's brought it, or there's something we can peg it on in terms of the news. But it's a conversation we should be having about us being taxed. Because where do they stop? We'll start walking in town and you'll have to pay a levy to walk into town. It will get to a point.
What, if we want to look, what is this translated to, or what are these fees applied to for maintenance of roads and things like this? But if you look at
they go into the kitty, then from the kitty, all the services that the county government provides get from this kitty.
Of which they already get.
So we can't say that
they already
because
get from national government.
we
They have a budget.
11 million shillings from parking, then all this money goes back to parking.
It should, at the very least. It should, but
if we're looking at things
what
like
the national government
if
gives
we're looking
is
at things
not
like,
adequate for their services.
It is 15.
So if we're looking at things like road maintenance, where we have half the roads in Nairobi in a dilapidated state, and we talk about it just now, where we see people are looking for road as opposed to people are looking for which part of the pothole is safest to get into so that I don't ruin my vehicle. So if we're looking at that, then you would say, okay, in terms of it should, is it not that it's too much, but the service that you should get as a result of you paying, then is not adequate at the same time. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't translate. There's no one side heavily outbalances the other.
Let me pick David. David is in Kisumu. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I also wanted to contribute to the issue of parking fees. My opinion is parking is a resource. And the characteristic of a resource is that they are scarce, and the demand and supply commands how the pricing to go up. So I guess it's the right thing to do for Nairobi as it is to control the traffic first, and also to give the resources that are required to develop the city and for other services. The problem should be how the funds are managed and whether all the money is corrected in a good way.
Right.
And I also wanted to contribute about the schooling issue. I guess the best thing to do is first to implement the issue of all public servants in the BPI issue. All the servants, public servants, they should be in school where the kids should be in public schools, such that all these big people who are in government should also participate in making these schools that they want.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Lydia in Parklands, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Spice FM. Thank you for helping us to search for the best practice in taxes.
Yes.
Now, we are asked to pay parking, we are asked to pay trade license, we are asked to pay rates, which keep on increasing every year, just goes on and on and on. Then we are told the audit said that the county has got 12,000 is paying 12,000 ghost workers. Now the most recent audit says it has further increased to 20,000 ghost workers. Still we are supposed to pay and pay like as though we are the robbers.
Pay the ghost.
Why should we be taxed? Yes. Now I wanted to read to you the Kenya Power. Everybody's complaining, why are there so many cartels in this what we have to pay.
Right.
The energy, I spoke to an accountant and he gave me a photocopy of that small company. Consumption was 7,160 shillings cents 40. Then added to it was fuel energy cost 1,377 added to that energy that you used. Then it says fuel energy cost. Yeah, I said consumption, fuel energy cost. Total energy, you then have to pay 6,537 cents 40. That is total energy. Now comes the cartels, levies and adjustments. Forex exchange, they want from you 65 shillings and 04 cents. Then inflation, just listen to this. Inflation, they want from you 114 shillings 75 cents. Then they say ERC levy. I asked the Kenya Power, what is ERC? It means Energy Regulatory Commission. Yes, that's 1377. Then they want from you REP levy. I said, what is REP levy? That's Rural Electrification Authority levy. They want from you 358 shillings and 02 cents. Look, it doesn't end. Then
It's a lot. It's a lot being paid. Yes, Lydia, we get the picture. We get the picture. This is the electricity bill. The issue of parking, though, Lydia. Just before we digress into electricity bill, parking. Should we or should we not pay parking?
They can organize it in a more sensible way, but not 100% and another 100% over and another 100%. This is ridiculous.
Okay.
I heard even the matatus have to pay double.
Yep, for their slots.
So, I mean, they are the honest hard workers. When we are asleep, they are working. When we are awake, they are working. They are working in the sun,
Thank you,
in
Lydia.
the cold, in the rain.
Thank you, Lydia. Jesse in Nairobi. Good morning, Jesse.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yes, I want to provide my contribution. I think the issue of increasing parking is not really addressing the problem, because I think the issue of parking has to be also linked by, say, the transport system. How convenient is it? Because I think the more you say improve the transport system, You won't even have to convince people not to use their car, not to come into town.
Yeah.
So I think the county government raising the parking only is sort of dealing with the symptom, but they have to look at how is transport within the CBD arranged. How are the places where they just the basic public services that go around the CBD. Say it goes with the parking, other washrooms and all that. So when that is missing, I think what they are doing is more temporal, but they are not really tackling the real issues that would help them address the issue of decongestion. And I think one thing is that people, as from listening to all the callers, you find people are not happy with the fact that whatever little that you're already paying, you're not seeing the physical manifestation of its benefit.
Yep.
So when you propose to increase, it becomes then you don't have the trust of the people, and probably that's a big challenge, like both the national and the county governments have, where since they've had challenges delivering the public services as it is now, they no longer have the trust, or the trust is not as what they would want. So people are not reading from the same script that they are reading. So like when it comes to the issue of the whole revenue, what about the revenue that they currently have? You've heard your caller say there's a lot of wastage, ghost workers. So this has to be, part of what the county should improve on. And at the end of the day, a public service should not be really charged, because there are other ways that already, there are resources that they already have that they're not accounting for. And I think also the whole issue of commercializing a public service, which started with initially the intention was right with the reforms that were there in the 90s. If you remember the structural adjustment programs that were meant to improve service delivery because the government was failing, but in themselves also what they introduced is that you started commercializing the whole public service. Then now you introduce the issue of cartelism, and then now you have a bigger monster that you're dealing with that is just looking at profit.
Bottom line, Jesse, bottom line is the county, the government that is raising these revenues is actually, people are not feeling like they're utilizing it to the best way that they should.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Jesse. 0719 012 600.
So, Nyeri, are you proposing that we should have a welfare state?
No.
And who finances it?
Not at all, because you would need to up the taxes, which I'm against. My point is, with certain things, these are absurd taxes. It's just that it's gone on for so long that we take it as a norm. Whereas if you were to actually scrutinize and understand the rationale, if they can come up with one, behind the imposition of some of these fees, you'd realize actually this is a breach of our rights as Kenyans. And this is why I say, where do we stop? If we're to follow this to its logical conclusion and just keep taxing everything, I've talked about it, they'll tax the air that we breathe. How many cubic meters of oxygen did you take in?
How is it a breach of our rights?
They'll start taxing conversations that we have, which you've seen. Uganda was trying to tax social media conversations. Tanzania has a special tax.
How is it a breach of our rights?
There's different rights we have. You have a right to freedom of expression without having to pay for it, for instance. If it's a conversation, you shouldn't have to pay for it. It's a right. Your rights do not come at a cost. They don't come at a fee. So what I'm saying is, with regards to Nairobi City Council, it shouldn't be an avenue for them to raise revenue. It shouldn't be a revenue generating stream. It should be something that they use either as a deterrent, which we've seen it's not the right approach if it's a deterrent for traffic or for people driving into the CBD. There's other ways to decongest the city, and there's no options. Places like where you have the congestion charge in central London, there's options. You could use the underground, the bus service is very good. Here we need to focus on those things. Stop trying to make money from people driving in.
For us to finance those things that you're talking about, we need money.
No.
For us to raise this money,
No,
we need to have revenue streams.
Not through this avenue.
These revenue
Not
streams
through this.
include parking. Parking,
Now, what I'm
pay
saying,
for market stalls, pay license fees for doing a business. This is how the county is going to be able
Pay
to
licenses
raise.
for hawking.
Yes. This is how we shall raise the money. The 11
do
billion
those things
shillings
so
that we
they-
want to raise as county, and then we get the other 20 billion shillings from the national government, make it at 30. The question is, what are you doing with the money that you're raising?
That's the question.
That's
is
what
what
the
you're
question should
raising,
be.
and then are you giving adequate services for that money that you're raising, or even try to improve? Because we can say, okay, fine, pay for certain things and maintain, but are we looking at improvements within the city? Are we looking at innovations that actually make the city cleaner, more adaptable to world-class profile kind of thing?
that
Are we
actually
trying
is
to
the
raise?
debate.
Are we trying to raise our standards? But unfortunately, that has not been seen, because if anything, we seem to be going down the steps in the deplorable.
Why I mentioned the issue of the welfare state is that is where the government actually focuses on ensuring that the so-called basic welfare of the people are taken care of. But they manage that by taxing heavily. They really tax.
They really tax
Oh, yes.
to make you feel that we're taking care of you,
But
but asking you to pay for it.
It becomes a welfare state when you can actually feel taken care of. You have housing provided for you. You have basic health provided for you.
Proper
The roads
roads.
are good. The transport system, public transport system is good.
Well
So,
regulated,
yes,
that
so
kind of thing.
So our debate here is really not about the tax, but it's about what the use to which our money is put.
Where is the money going?
And do you think it discourages people from going into the CBD?
Of course
there's-
No,
I mean, if you have something to do, you're gonna go.
they will go. It's you're paying it per day.
Do
They
you,
will
pay,
go.
do you pay on Sundays? Is it free?
No,
No,
Sunday is
Saturday.
free.
Saturday
half
half
day.
day.
After lunch is free. Basically.
Saturday?
Yes.
Yes.
What about Sunday?
It's free.
Free.
Oh, Sunday is free. Oh, okay.
Sunday is free.
I might drive in actually and
Yeah,
park
but then
for
again,
free
most
on
of the
a
things that
Sunday.
you would want to do in the city, they're closed. So
So you
So
would-
a business is
so then
suffering.
you would go to the malls, and the malls will
Will charge you.
charge you.
So if you think you're going to escape, sorry.
Church is going to charge you. Of course, we saw the Catholic Church recently just launched their underground parking at the Holy Family Basilica. Go to
Yes.
church on Sunday.
What's that about?
They decided to use the space that they have to actually create a parking lot.
To make money.
Creative ways of
Of
increasing
increasing
their
revenue.
revenue.
Yes.
Yes.
Why? So that they can serve the people better.
11 minutes to 9 o'clock. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. 0719 012 600. Shortly, we'll also hear from Nyeri County. What they do there.
96.1 Spice FM. Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice Up and Right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Spice and everything nice. Alright. Spice
And we've also
Spice
heard
up
the
your
church,
life.
if you remember, asking, or there's been discussions as to whether we should pay a certain tax to churches. And in Germany, Catholic and Protestant, the Germans, they're expected to pay a certain tax on their income to fund their churches. So, good morning.
They're not expected. They're taxed.
They're
They actually
taxed.
end
So
up
the
getting
Catholic,
They
the
are
Catholics and
taxed.
Protestants are taxed. We're talking about a breathing tax in Venezuela. Well, it's not actually. no,
breathing
no,
tax.
no. Here we
You're
go.
gonna
No,
find
no, no.
something.
Listen to this.
Come on, a breathing tax.
So Venezuela
It isn't.
does not actually tax people for breathing per se. However, it has imposed a special breathing tax in inverted commas of 127 bolivars, that's about $20, on passengers flying out of Maiquetía International Airport in Caracas. The government stated that the tax was necessary to offset the cost of the newly installed air filtration system. So they're calling it a breathing tax. Smartphones and tablets in France, in 2013, France was considering the introduction of a special tax on smartphones and tablets. This, of course, didn't go through. Bribes, stolen goods, and other illegal income. Okay, something else, sorry.
They're taxing bribes.
In Switzerland, if you have a dog, you pay a special tax for that dog. Of course, I mentioned in Tanzania, if you're a blogger, you pay a special tax. Of
Tax
course,
for
that's,
blogging.
Yes, that's to try and deter sort of any political dissent, isn't it?
In Uganda, to
And
access
you get
Facebook.
To access social media, you pay. And
now
you
that's
only-
going to
right.
become as normalized as parking fees, and they'll find us
You
strange
know,
for
you
not
seem
being
to
charged.
forget that not very long ago, if you went to a public place like, say, a hotel, you actually paid for internet services.
Yes.
They became free not too long ago. I mean, this issue of paying, it isn't the problem as far as I can see.
Did we pay for internet
Oh,
services?
yes, we used to pay.
Yes, Jerry.
Really?
It's not-
How
it's
did we
not-
pay for them?
It's not free Wi-Fi.
How do people
It
normally pay
wasn't
in
free
Jerry?
Wi-Fi. You got a voucher or a token.
voucher.
Oh, you
was like
bought it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Some
Let me pick this
shillings or
call.
dollars or
Moses.
whatever.
Mwashimiwa Grace from, what was it? Baringo.
Good morning.
Oh, you're in Nairobi.
But she's always in Nairobi, but you know she's Mheshimiwa Grace from Baringo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's been a while.
Yeah, been a while, but we are fine.
Oh,
Good.
super.
Now, I hear your discussion this morning about taxes generally. You see, the whole essence of a tax is that so that we support the public system, so that we have order, and it is beneficial to all of us. But when you look at, like, for instance, the parking fee that was increased, last night as I came home, I got into a huge pothole,
Looking for the road.
and I think, no, it was raining, and then now the water is full up, so you don't know where the pothole
You don't know where the road is. There's
I
no
hit a
road.
bad one. Yes. So, for instance, now the county government of Nairobi, all these roads, they are becoming mini lakes, and they still have the moral authority to say we need more money. My problem, number one, what are we gonna do with the public to give us our rightful services?
Right.
Yeah.
Good question. Good question. We are also joined this morning in the hot seat by the Nyeri Deputy Governor. This is Dr. Caroline Karugo. Thank you very much for coming. Asante sana and karibu.
Thank you for having me.
It's not often that we also see a guest coming in bearing gifts. Are those for us?
Oh.
I've been looking at that coffee, actually.
You know
You're
what?
holding something in your hands.
You know what happened?
You don't go anywhere empty-handed.
We are villagers.
You were raised well.
Yeah, I'm raised well. Right? You know, I came and they asked me, what should we offer you? And I said, some black coffee would be great. And they brought coffee that is not really coffee. And I said to them, you know what, I want you to understand coffee because what you're serving here is actually what we call coffee mud. What is left in the drum after we mill the nice roasted coffee, we put water in it, and then we make this expensive Nairobi coffee. So I told them I usually will carry a packet or two in my trunk. So this is some nice Nyeri coffee done by the Dedan Kimathi University. My treat to you all this morning so that you stop serving this horrible coffee.
Already the aroma in the studio, it's amazing.
So you're saying that this particular coffee, the ingredients are similar to what we call tea dust, which is what comprises the tea bag. Yes.
Precisely.
Okay.
So, yeah, but they said they don't have a coffee machine. I think I'll have to donate that one.
Wow. That's true.
You should come more often.
Yes.
This is why we need women in leadership.
Exactly.
See? The whole concept of not going empty-handed is actually, being exhibited here. So, asante sana, Madam
this
DG,
is
for
one
coming.
for you, Eric.
Yeah.
Good. It's a nice, beautiful medium roast.
All right,
Arabica
so
coffee.
here it is. If you can zoom in, John, into this, and someone can see this, what I'm holding. 100% Arabica coffee, medium roast. Dedan Kimathi University premium coffee. Right? Very beautiful.
Talking about
Beautiful
creative
packaging.
income revenue from cities or towns.
From counties.
From
That's
counties.
Is it available in our supermarkets?
And you know what is beautiful about it? They go into research for coffee. It's a university, so it's not 100% commercial. They spend a lot of time in researching the new clones of coffee, how to roast and mill good coffee. So it's good coffee. Taste it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now tell me, good morning.
Good
do you charge parking fees in Nyeri?
Yes, we do. We haven't hiked them.
Okay.
We haven't hiked them, but yes, we do. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, in keeping with African traditions, we're being very un-African here. Here we are pounding you with questions, and we even haven't asked you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely.
And how you got into politics.
Or even how is Nyeri and how
And how did you travel? How is the weather? Yes.
Let's start with the
Nairobi
traditional
children.
African
It's
greeting
okay.
city.
Yes.
How are you? How are the children? How's the family?
Okay, Daktari, how are you?
I am well, thank you, and
That
thanks
is
for having me.
wonderful.
The
Yes.
children are great.
Yes.
Everybody is great.
Yes.
We are enjoying good rains in
Yes.
Nyeri,
Yes.
and we thank God for them.
We also thank God for having you here.
Great.
And how are the people of Nyeri?
The people of Nyeri are good. You have seen we are quiet. We are good. We thank God. All is going on okay.
Yes. The BBI notwithstanding, you're all well.
We are all well. We are reading the BBI. That's why we are quiet about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
The title that Eric has presented us with is Doctor.
Yes.
Tell us what it is that you're a doctor of.
Oh, I see. Yes, I am Doctor of Finance.
Yes.
I speak a lot within the medical space, and people tend to think I'm a medical doctor. I am PhD Finance from a collaboration of USIU and the Columbia Business School in New York.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Congratulations.
And how did you get into politics? How did you move from the world of finance
it's-
into these very murky waters of politics?
It's something I have really thought about this morning when I was trying to come to studio. And, I was driving and I kept telling my driver, we need to get there at 8 o'clock. But we don't need to die getting there. We have a bad precedence with coming to studios in the morning because our late Dr. Nakuru, died trying to make it to your studio deadlines. So, that is how I got myself into politics. I had been supporting politics from what I like to call row number 4. So I was a row number 4 politician, crunching the numbers, beefing up the manifestos, and really have been happy to support from the background because then I was actively in corporate Kenya, and of course it's a no, you cannot do the two. And I guess that when Dr. Gakuru died, the natural thing was to be brought from row number 4 to row number 1.
Row number 1, quick fast.
So quick fast, very quick fast.
You're going to
I
tell
was
us
a
that
bit
story.
hesitant about it, but yeah.
Let's go to the top of the hour and then take a look at what's happening on the roads. And then, of course, you'll tell us that story of how you got there and your experience so far.
Right.
We have in the studio on the hot seat Dr. Caroline Karugo. She is the Deputy Governor of Nyeri County. Of course, we'll be having a conversation with her. Nyeri County is one of those that were piloting the Universal Healthcare Program. Of course, we want to hear what they've been doing about that. Also, Nyeri County has had very many cases of cancer and other non-communicable diseases. She talks a lot about health and she says that. So we'll throw her into the deep end on that. I'm sure she'll swim on that particular topic. Of course, we'll also talk a little bit about Nyeri politics in the region. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.
Right, going on
Spice up your
highway,
life.
getting into Ngara is going to be a problem because, yes, again, people are battling the potholes and trying to find what is road because that's filled with water. And we've had quite a number of accidents around the city already. In Gong Road, everybody's complaining. Standstill from Prestige to the roundabout at the city mortuary is not moving. Understand that there's a graduation happening at the KMTC today, and that is going to affect traffic inbound, outbound for quite a while on Gong Road as well as Bagavi Way. Coming off of Langata Road, where we had the accident early this morning, that means there's quite a lot of traffic there as well. Mombasa Road, I'm sorry to say, is not moving whatsoever. Good news though, in many months, the expressway will be completed. Work has already begun there now, but for now, unfortunately, we're going to have to sit it out. Stories coming out from around the city is the fact that a lot of roads are affected because of the rains. There are going to be intermittent rains around Nairobi today, so we're going to have to prepare for that. It's going to be a traffic day, as it were. So please take it easy. Be cautious when you see water. I keep insisting, don't go in until you're sure. 0719012600 is the number to call. If you find an alternate route, please let us know and we'll share.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Jerry Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room. the only way to
2
start
minutes
your
after 9.
day.
Thank you very much for choosing the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We're broadcasting from Nairobi on 94.4. We are in Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9, Malindi 97.7. We're also live streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE. We are on YouTube and also on our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. Our guest today on the hot seat who's come bearing gifts is the Nyeri Deputy Governor, Dr. Caroline Karugu. And of course, before we went into take a look at traffic, you were telling us about, your ascent into the position of Deputy Governor. Of course, then we started with the tragedy, and the Deputy Governor then became the Governor, and he had to pick Deputy Governor. Yeah. And this is where you came from fourth row to second row. Is
First. Second row. Second row. Let's just say second row.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So, and of course, the transition has been quite something. Corporate Kenya and politics are like two totally different things.
Mm-hmm.
But my approach to politics is really service. I look at it more as you're a civil servant. You are supposed to pretty much be real servant leader, so to speak. So that has kept me going. Every day learning new things, learning political dynamics, and I must say I'm loving it. Yes, it's got to be done. Listen, guys, it's got to be done. All of us cannot sit up in ivory towers and not want to know what's going on in the grassroots. That is part of the problems that we have in this country. We have people who are very unwilling to serve and just very willing to be active on Twitter and Facebook to criticize what government is doing. So when opportunities for service come, I think I would like to call upon those of us who are technocrats to really, toss yourself into it and, learn, swim with the sharks. And then soon enough, you get your own space and, you get what you're working for. And, it's pretty enjoyable, actually. Yeah.
So when you came in, of course, from your background in finance and what you were doing in finance, maybe the other people in the county government expected you to focus a lot on finance. And then you come in with this other social agenda.
I would say yes. In fact, the rumor in Nyeri initially was that I was going to be CEC finance, and really I didn't want to remain in the back office, with finance, because the need on the ground is real. And for Nyeri, I think there's one big need, and the need is within the health space. If you look at national statistics, we rank highest in prevalence of non-communicable diseases, to be specific, diabetes, hypertension, and cancer. And, having come from corporate Kenya, where we are tasked with the responsibility of finding solutions, that became the low-hanging fruit for me and the place to start, service from. I mean, I did a tour to, for instance, our County of Harrow Hospital and, pretty much the government hospitals. And, it was sorry. The state is just sorry. I spent like 2 nights, I really couldn't sleep. And my mother started asking me, why did you take up a job that's going to eventually kill you?
Right. But how did Nyeri acquire this status? How is it that you then have the highest rate of non-communicable diseases? How?
That is the $1 million question. And you see, part of the problems we have in the health space is data. We've been very poor in data collection at a national level and also at a county level. The national government used to collect data before devolution. Post-devolution, that conversation went all over the place. When governors now became in charge of the health space, I mean, they had everything on their faces. You had to worry about drugs. You had to worry about the human capital. So issues, data collection, and research and analysis then took a backseat. So that is why we are where we are. I cannot tell you why is it that Nyeri is high in prevalence of. I cannot authoritatively tell you because I haven't seen empirical studies that then can inform my notion. However, we suspect a couple of things that. When I speak to doctors, they tell me maybe Nyeri is a little bit more affluent, being the former former provincial headquarters
headquarters.
for the Mount Kenya region, the affluence levels are a little higher. When I go on the ground, I'm not entirely convinced. There's also a notion. There's also a notion on the amount of pesticides that are in our food produce. Of course, all these are suspicions, but we need to exact them into research so that then we can conclusively say what could be leading to the non-communicable diseases. But it is true, if you look at even the amount of patients that we are seeing in the county, those are the three diseases that we are fighting every day. Yeah.
Would you say that the people of your county have good health-seeking behavior? I come from a research background.
Yes.
So why I'm asking is because sometimes the figures are what they are because more people than perhaps in other countries
are reporting.
Yes.
Right.
So that's why you have the figures. Others don't report, so you don't know the figures.
Like I said, it's all out there. I mean, we need to invest in research in the health space. That could actually be one of the reasons. I remember I went to a meeting at the Ministry of Health, and they said they were giving rates of immunization, and Nyeri really ranked high in immunization. And other counties were arguing maybe it's because Nyeri has a better reporting structure. So then if we report, then it's more accurate. So the issue of data collection is really lacking in the health space. The issue of even data that speaks to each other that can then be able to inform policy or inform strategy going forward is also lacking. And this is where perhaps I call researchers like yourself. I'm glad you said you're a researcher. We need a lot more people just plugging into the counties and saying, I am here to help you research on ABCD. We have universities countrywide. I'm not entirely sure that we are speaking to each other with.
Actually, our universities unfortunately do not focus on research. Right across the country.
Right across the country. I
Yes,
don't think
they
there's
do
focus on
not
research.
focus on research at all.
There were agreements between countries. There were agreements between countries, and I think we can point to certain happenings on the continent whereby there was agreement to look at a certain percentage of national budgets towards health, towards research, towards this kind of thing.
Yes.
I think we're scratching the surface at 4% nationally.
I know.
You see, so I mean, even that.
And the percentage was supposed to be 15.
It's supposed to be 15.
Yes.
And so even that with the resolve at a national level to actually have that as part of the big cake is wanting. So how do we, if at the top, because we always say from the very top is where the responsibility should be taken.
Precisely.
How then do we convince the people lower down on the rung to say, come in and plug in, where at the top there's no will, or we can't see evidence of a will to actually have that done?
You know what you're saying is actually very accurate. If we have even a PS in charge of planning, and if you spend time with them, you get pretty depressed about where we are going as a nation in terms of understanding, getting an in-depth understanding of our issues. And the truth is, like I told you, post-devolutions, the governors were up to the neck with issues. All of a sudden, you had to handle your hospitals. All of a sudden, your nurses are on the streets. The doctors are on the streets. You don't have drugs. So it got to a point, as a manager, you begin to prioritize.
Yeah.
Do I start researching on why we have cancer, or do I first ensure that we have
treat those who do?
Precisely, So in that game of balancing and prioritization, unfortunately, research has fallen through the cracks.
Gets lost.
It gets lost, and we hoped that at a national level, now that the burden has been carried by the counties, that it frees up space for the national team to actually now delve down into research. I do not know, and I cannot authoritatively say that is currently happening. I hope it is happening because the need is actually real. For instance, for us who are a pilot county, sometimes we are asked, can you give us records? And we say, we can give you records of the piloting phase between January and perhaps, October. But we cannot, the data before that is a mambo jumbo. It's everywhere, and might spend another 3 years just trying to piece it together. So there is a need for research, and I think that is the future, because we are screaming about the same things as counties. When we meet, we all cry about, we don't have enough human capital, we don't have enough drugs. But drugs to go to who? What ailments are we treating? What amount of drugs does Kenya need? Issues telemedicine, which is the future. Instead of crying that we don't have enough nurses and doctors, are we looking at how to instill systems and how to incorporate IT so that telemedicine becomes real? Telemedicine.
What's that?
You don't need to have a doctor going around, seeing one patient at a time. I see a future in the space of medicine, and seeing the need that we have on the ground, that the doctor doesn't actually need to leave, even, to perform operations, that the doctor doesn't need to leave his desk. He can have 2-3 screens where he's able to interact with his patients from across. It doesn't matter where you are. You're in Nyeri, you're in Pokot, you're in wherever. A doctor should sit in Nairobi and be able to see those patients and be able to treat those patients. That way we are creating efficiencies on time, and we are also spreading the resources that we have, because I do not think that we have optimized the current human capital that we have. I mean, and there's also some low-hanging fruits. We have KMTCs everywhere. Today we just said there's a graduation. It's going to be about, I don't know, 1,000 KMTC, graduates.
Yeah.
Where do these people go? We are struggling with human capital. In my view, the students in KMTCs should have a day or two to help in the counties, to go and plug into the primary health systems.
Right.
Because if you look at what the countries that have really succeeded in healthcare, they have been serious about strengthening their primary healthcare. I mean, the dispensaries, the community health extension workers, the community health volunteers, those at the very village level. That is where healthcare, we must start to speak seriously about healthcare. And then we must also, invert the conversation from curative to more preventive. We have no business getting sick, and that is what I have been, that is my campaigns in Nyeri County have been. All these diseases that are ailing us are hugely preventable but not curable. That's what the doctors are telling us. So you don't need to wait until you have diabetes. You don't need to wait until your blood pressure is, uncontrollable.
You can deal with it before
You can deal with it before that. You can make a few lifestyle adjustment changes or changes, and and you can live longer, or you can delay those diseases. So concentrating more on the preventive. Now,
Why
if you
is
look
this
at
issue not being amplified at the Council of Governors level? Because that's the caucus that should be talking about this. When we hear the Committee on Health at the COG, they're just talking about payment of workers. Workers have gone on strike. We are negotiating with the workers. Why not such conversations?
Like I said to you, governors are up to the neck with issues. And sometimes, the work of a governor, I've watched some of them, and they're just pretty much firefighting from this to the other. From this, by the time you're done with your health workers, the nurses also give you a notice when you're done with the nurses. The clinical officers want to. So we need a very sober conversation, or they need to relegate that conversation perhaps to their deputy governors and say, think strategy, think research. But with politics, I say with common sense makes perfect. Makes sense. But with politics, I
was coming to that actually.
What is wrong?
Oh, sorry. To your experience as a woman in politics, having come from the corporate world, and then you said you were swimming with the sharks. What has your experience been as a woman in politics?
How much time do you have? I can talk about this for 2 days.
What do you feel were the main challenges, first of all, and what do you feel you achieved as well, and how did you go about it?
First, the main challenges are just you're a woman. You're
patriarchy.
A woman, yes, yes, the patriarchy. You're a woman, and therefore you are sort of undeserving to a great extent, and and you will not be able to make rational decisions. So there's that's the perceptional issues. Should bring emotions into this. This is about politics. This is about decision making. Don't bring your heart to it. Bring your mind to it. And I say, you need both the mind and the heart when you're serving people. So challenges are pretty much more perceptive than reality. They will look at you and say, you can't. There's also cultural issues that some people are very, edgy about. Why would a woman lead us? A woman traditionally was not supposed to be a leader. They were supposed to be a follower. When did this change? And you really feel it, especially when you're in the grassroots, when they begin to tell you those days of Gikuyu and Mumbi's work was this and Gikuyu's work was this, and that is why you're undeserving. But also, let me say, women have really matured into leadership, and women have I like women in leadership because they're almost activists. When I became deputy governor, Charity Ngilu had a meeting with me, and she said, you must be strong. You must, and we're going to hold your hand, and they're going to intimidate you, and you must look them back in the face and tell them, I am not here because I don't deserve. I deserve it, and I am here. And guess what? You're going to have to deal with it.
Brilliant.
And then likes of Jokindongu. Jokindongu called me and said, I want you to do one thing. I want to take care of your mental health, because women in leadership are struggling with mental health. Yes.
Encouraging words, actually, to hear that women leaders are even, coming up and saying, coming to support and work together.
Yes.
Dr. Caroline Kirogo is the Deputy Governor of Nyeri County. She's joined us this morning. She's come bearing gifts. We'll be showing you those gifts. This is some brilliant 100% coffee from Nyeri County, done by the, which Kimathi
Dedan Kimathi University.
Well, we'll tell you how it tastes. Let's allow her to have some coffee that we have served her.
Mud.
So she calls it coffee mud.
Yes.
We have served her some what we call sumptuous coffee. She calls it coffee mud. Let's allow her to have a sip of that, and then we come back and continue the conversation. It's 18 minutes past 9. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Spice up your life. 96.1 Spice FM. Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Recently, the papers reported that what was formerly Nyeri Provincial Hospital went into a collaboration with Kenyatta National Hospital.
Did they?
It was actually Odaya. It's Odaya.
Oh, no.
Nyeri.
I don't know. I'm saying it's Odaya. Odaya is in Nyeri. Yes, I know where I'm coming from.
Okay.
Yes.
Continue.
Now, how did that happen and why? And then I'll explain why I mentioned Nyeri Provincial Hospital, former Nyeri Provincial, and not Odaya. Yes.
Well, I didn't catch that one for sure, but I would imagine, Othaya is actually a level 6 hospital. Nyeri Provincial, as you call it, we call it the County Referral Hospital, is a level 5. So level 5s and below belong to county government. Level 6s were still left with national government. Why they would have a collaboration, I do not know, because I thought it was natural, that of course level 5s are supposed to have a natural, relationship with level 6s for purposes of referral. Maybe it's they want to say that finally Odaya level 6 is up and running, and maybe they wanted to hype that, but it's a natural relationship between level 5s and level 6s. Now the thing is, there has been a huge influx of patients in our PGH, as you call it, the County Referral Hospital. Post UHC, we saw a lot of people getting excited about seeking for healthcare. We've also seen a season of our neighboring counties facing huge issues in the health space. Like Kipia had been down for a minute. Kirinyaga, let's not even get started. Muranga is struggling. Nyandarua is okay, but so we have a huge overflow of patients from our neighboring counties into our county referral hospital. Of course, there are perceptional issues of the fact that the county referral hospital at Nyeri is where the doctors are seated, is where you get quality health care. So that still runs until today.
You've understood. Now, which of these two hospitals sees most patients?
The level 5 or the level
The
6?
level 5, the level 5, of course, the level 5.
So
yes.
how is it? What determines the levels? What makes one hospital level 6, the other one 7, and the other one 5?
The amount of amenities that are there. So level 5s are supposed to see the more complicated, city,
Issues that
sort
refer
of
to them from,
yes,
say, the
from
sub-county.
the sub-county hospitals, downwards. Level 6s are, pretty much for chronic acute illnesses. That is the ideal position. Unfortunately, that is not how it works, and that is not how it has worked historically. And that we are seeing that is part of the reason why we have a crisis in the healthcare system. It has been dysfunctional from the primary level. You see, if a properly functioning system, if I fall sick, I should go to the dispensary in my village.
Yes.
And that dispensary, if it's something they cannot see, is supposed to refer me to the health center.
Yes.
The health center to the sub-county hospital, the sub-county hospital to the county referral hospital. Now, but what we see in the villages, there are some hospitals that are known. This is where the doctors are seated. So if I, for instance, am sick today in Nyeri, I wake up and I go straight to the level 5. So if you go to our outpatients, even right now, you meet 200, 300 people who would have ordinarily be seen at the dispensary.
And are the dispensaries empty?
The dispensaries are empty for many reasons. One, for a long time, our dispensaries have not had health workers. They've had one nurse who opens maybe Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and the other days they're reporting and it's closed. And God knows if that nurse falls sick, the dispensary is closed. And people generally knew you will not get medicine there. And these are some of the things we are trying to redo with UHC, because UHC is about, I had Eric calling it universal health care. It's really not care. It's universal health coverage. In fact, we argue that care and coverage are inversely, related, and we can have a discussion about that. But we're trying to reverse this and, dissuade people from the notion that if I'm sick, I go to any hospital. So we are trying to regularize the system. If you're sick, go to your dispensary. So we're trying to add the health staff. With UHC, we've been able to top up about 230 new health workers, for instance, for Nyeri County. We're trying to say where we have one person, one clinical officer, let's have a clinical officer and 2 nurses, so that way...
Per what population or per what geographical?
Per dispensary.
And how many dispensaries per person, so to speak, or rather how many people to a dispensary?
The WHO actually does have a recommended rate of 1 to 14. I mean, and that is, I can tell you, we are
very far.
Oh, we are extremely far from making that target. But what we are trying to do, because it's baby steps. First of all, can we have the dispensaries open Monday through Friday? Can we have somebody sitting in the primary facilities seated there Monday through Friday? 2, can we ensure that we have drugs, at the very primary level? Because there are people, for instance, who are hypertensive, diabetic, who usually will wake up and go to the level 5s to pick their drugs. So one of the things we've been able to do in Nyeri under the UHC program is to devolve this medicine to the dispensaries, to the very, very primary level. If I'm diabetic and I need a refill every month, I can walk to the dispensary and get my refill. I have no business going to queue at the county referral hospital, trying to decongest. But I can tell you, it's baby steps. We are 1 year into it, and we haven't really gotten the 100% hang of it, but it is somewhat, working. Even, more the perception issue, telling people you have your drugs at
That's
at
what
the
I was gonna
dispensary
say,
level.
The communication part of it seems vital in the proper operation of all of this.
Precisely.
Because how are we going to tell people that you should go to your dispensary first if historically for them, the nurse only shows up on Tuesday and Thursday. And so now here's a directive saying, go to your dispensary when I know for a fact that there's nobody there. So you see the kind of clash when that information comes through.
Yes, precisely.
So unless these individuals are, like you say, stationed there, the health workers there, there's medicine there, drugs are available there.
I know.
Then now you're passing on that information. Then people get more comfortable to then be able to go.
Precisely. And I said it's a journey. It's a journey that, in my view, just has started with UHC. And I like to thank the president because UHC really, I think, is transforming the lives of our people. You know, we are struggling with, you know, regularizing a whole lot of issues. I mean, perceptional issues and the real operational issues. But I think that we have our best days, still ahead.
What funding model is the UHC using?
Currently, at a national level, they're sending monies to the county.
The government is?
Yes.
The national government?
The national government is sending a total of 789 million, for instance, to the 4 pilot counties. I mean, like to Nyeri. Yes, thereabouts, 700, 800, about, let's say about 1 billion shillings.
We heard a declaration yesterday from the president that quite a huge amount of money was going to be dispersed specifically for this year.
This coming year.
Or before the end of 2020 is what we're looking at.
Yes. And you see, this money doesn't actually come to the counties. It's not the money that comes to the counties now. that's about 60% of this will go to KEMSA, and then we draw drugs. Because the UHC is supposed to ensure that we have drugs. It's about affordability and access. Yeah. So when you speak access, you speak human capital. When you speak affordability, you speak essential drugs and the availability of those drugs at the very primary level. So KEMSA, is given that money, and we draw from them drugs, which in my view has worked very well. I think had counties gotten that money, we would have, challenges with, procurement and, I think it would have misappropriation and whatever accountability.
Yeah,
issues.
you said the best days are ahead for UHC.
Yes.
So is this going to work? Because that has been the question for a lot of people. I mean, whether you look from Isiolo to Nyeri to Machakos, people are asking that question. Is this system for health coverage in the country going to work?
It must. We don't have a choice. I don't know why people debate about UHC like we don't know where we are coming from.
I asked about the funding.
Yes.
Is it sustainable?
Over time.
Because right now you have 4 counties. It's a pilot. There's funding for it.
1 billion per county.
That's why I asked the funding model, because the funding model would be able to inform us of the sustainability of it.
It's 1 billion shillings per county.
Where's that coming from?
If we scale it, it's going to be 47 billion. My bad, sorry. 47 billion shillings in a country where dams money 60 billion disappears. I mean, come on, guys. You cannot. I have refused to plug into a conversation of whether it is sustainable. We have seen lots and lots of money disappearing in this country. Even if we put it in the health space and it disappeared in drugs, or there was some pilferages here and there, we would still be achieving a better goal than that money disappearing in total.
Your Excellency, theft seems sustainable in the country. That we've understood.
And that is why we are saying, if money is being stolen, let us the one that is left behind, can we at least
sort out
spare some for health? So I do not think that 47 billion shillings is a lot of money for this country. It is not.
My question was actually, you've answered it. You see, when you say the national government is going to fund it, then understandable. It is something that will be budgeted for. The money will be put aside,
and it has already. If you listen to the last budget, there's a
they allocated money for it.
They allocated money for it.
Did.
So I have no doubt that we will scale UHC. What I am nervous about is the expectation, because there's also this notion that UHC brings free everything.
It's free.
It brings free everything. Even drugs, everything is going to be free. But now that we are a pilot county, I can tell you it's the essential drugs. And if you cover the essential drugs, then you cover the indigents. when we were registering people at UHC, we wanted to find out, and we researched on who are the real indigents, who are the real needy of the needy, who require free healthcare. Yeah, and you will realize it's what 40, for instance, in Nyeri is about 40-50%. To the maximum. A lot of people have their own insurances. A lot of people are with the NHIF. So we wanted to establish who can really not afford. These are the people the government must have a conversation with and must afford healthcare too. So that needs to happen in the other counties. The other counties that haven't started UHC, if I was going to advise them, start regularizing your primary health care system, start getting your community health extension workers in place, your community health volunteers in place, get your dispensaries at least connected to water and electricity in the very minimum. Begin to prepare yourself for UHC, because UHC is really going to be looking at the primary health care and strengthening that health care.
Let's take a look at the traffic when we come back. My first question will be, have you had a conversation with the other counties, the other 43 counties, county governments, and given them your experience with the pilot of the UHC program? We have Dr. Caroline Karogo. She's the Deputy Governor of Nyeri County, one of the counties that has been piloting the Universal Health Coverage Program. Let's take a look at the roads, 28 minutes to 10 o'clock. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Sleeping tips brought to you by Superphone. Get on a schedule. Did you know that going to bed around the same time each night, you will wake up at around the same time each morning? If you're a napper, limit the naps to one 30-minute nap a day. A nap any longer will cause you trouble falling asleep later that night. This message was brought to you by Superphone. Superphone. We are good in bed.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. 96.1 Spice FM. Kisi.
All right, from
traffic
coming out of Kiserian and also Magadi Road is a major problem today. Trying to get off of that and get onto Langata Road to take you into the city. Traffic jam all around. Understand that we had an accident there earlier, and this is the result of that downtime. Ngong Road also giving us problems this morning, coming off of Ngong Road, Bagadi Way, and to the City Mortuary roundabout, and then heading into the city again. Mombasa Road, trying to get past the JKIA turnoff is a problem. Crazy traffic this morning there. Also, we're not even going to talk much about Thika Road, because now from the Safari Park Hotel, nothing is really happening. Jogo Road is a mess. Traffic snarl up to Naivas all the way to Donholm. So yeah, all around the city, this is what we're going to see for major parts of the day. Plus, we've been told that it's going to rain sometime later, so that you can trust. But be careful as you are applying the routes. Let us know if we can help you out in terms of sharing any of the information that you might have. 0719012600 is the number to call. Let's keep you moving as best we can.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room on Spice FM. My name is Eric Latif. We have CT Muga, Jerry Thorn Nduoko. And on the hot seat this morning is Dr. Caroline Karogo. She's the Deputy Governor of Nyeri County. We're talking about the Universal Health Coverage Program. Of course, we know that Nyeri County was among those ones that are piloting it. You've said you'd like to give some advice to the counties that have not piloted it, that are going to be, of course, rolling out countrywide. A couple of things. Ensure that you have electricity connected to your healthcare centers. Focus on primary healthcare.
Right.
Has the program actually organized fora where you 4 counties sit with the other 43 counties to tell them this is what we've been doing?
We, I think twice a year, we'll have a forum with the other counties. The last one was held in Kisumu. The previous year, we held it in Nyeri, where we call all the other counties, and we say this has been our experience, and this is what you must begin to do to prepare yourself, for UHC. You will, when we were earmarked to pilot UHC, we went around, and first of all, the number one thing is that you need to establish where your dispensaries are. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you would ask, how many dispensaries do we have? 119. No, I think the other one was open, then it was closed.
The other one remember?
There's one that was open, then it was closed. So first establish how many at the primary level, how many facilities do you have in total? How many of them are connected to electricity? Speak to Kenya Power or whoever, get your facilities connected with electricity. And electricity is key, because if we are thinking immunization, you need at least a small refrigerator, to store the drugs in the very least. Water, reliable, clean and safe water is another conversation. They might sound like no-brainers to you all, but I can tell you in the village, that's where the conversation of UHC begins.
Right, I'm listening to you, and it actually does sound like really basic stuff. But as you say it actually then does make sense.
Yes,
because we've heard about UHC and talked about it, and some of us have had the opportunity to actually delve in it a little bit deeper.
Yes.
However, it just seems to be, for so many people, including some government officials,
Right.
sorry to say,
Right.
it seems to be shrouded in some kind of ambiguity, and people are wondering, okay, where is it that we are going to start? But as you say it now, it is some things are quite basic in terms of what is needed.
Yes.
And that seems to be the case within a lot of things when it then comes to governance, that if you start from the nitty-gritty, then you'll be able to actually sort out a host of problems that we're dealing with. Is that what you see?
Analysis paralysis is a problem, especially in the health space. I don't know if it's because most of them consider themselves extremely genius, and they want very complex solutions. When the UHC conversation was started, we started looking at models world over, why UHC hasn't worked in these countries. And I said, we don't need to have UHC the way it is
modeled
perceived
to other countries.
We can have UHC Kenyan style, just like the way we are saying we can have democracy the Kenyan way. We can have UHC the Kenyan way.
Jerry, did you hear that?
Because
democracy the Kenyan way.
because the minute you begin to look at why UHC has failed in other countries, you first of all, you are not addressing the current need on the ground.
Right.
And the need is extremely basic. Do you have community health extension workers? The kind that you will charge with the responsibility of doing a door-to-door every day, collecting data for you, helping you in data collection, helping you do the very basic triaging, checking people's blood pressure and keeping the records in the home. That is where it is extremely basic, in my view. But it's been made complex because, also the health space is a big cash cow for many people.
Right.
So the more complicated you make it look and the more superfluous and impossible you make it look, then we revert back to the older system where a few mafia were, were eating the cake at the expense of, our people. So in my view, it's extremely basic. Primary health care, those dispensaries, those health extension workers, the community health volunteers, and concentrating on the preventive, promotive side of things. Putting money aside deliberately, because money is never put aside, even from a national level, for preventive and promotive. A small little budget, they'll do that, and then they print big T-shirts and many flyers. T-shirts say nothing to Wanjiku. If you come, I saw a huge campaign recently. They had printed T-shirts, and I said, if you took that money, instead of printing T-shirts and flyers and having loud vehicles going around the villages saying nonsense, just give us money to strengthen the primary healthcare system. Tell us how you would be able to add our staff in the dispensaries.
Why doesn't that message get? Because and this is replicated across the board, whatever sector of government or governance you want to look at. Why doesn't that message get in? Why? Because you can see I'm irritated, but why doesn't that message get through?
It does, but I told you it's a cash cow, and people are pulled in different directions, and the more heavyweight side of things is that draws you more money.
Where the money goes.
So those that make sense, perhaps are killing the cash cow for many other people. So the voice will be lost somewhere. But the idea is not to give up. The idea is to continually have the conversation. Just the fact that the president took UHC as one of his legacy items is one indicator that the voice could be reaching the top.
Yep.
That the problem that we're grappling with, the healthcare, are reaching the top. The in-between is what needs to be sorted. And that is why everybody needs to plug in.
Right.
The county governments need to plug in and consistently, give out the message of, let's regularize this system. And in my view, it is not complicated at all.
WHO, UNICEF, and other funding agencies came together to, first of all, research on something that was called ICCM.
Yes.
You know about the ICCM. And the findings were actually, it's a pet subject of mine, so I bring it up very often. And the findings were actually fantastic. And the findings were, one, that hospital attendance could actually be reduced by something like up to 75%. And what they were doing was training these healthcare workers, training them basically in diagnosing malaria, diarrhea, pneumonia, maybe in children. And they took it a step further. Within that particular setting, they would even have individuals who would actually provide basic medication once the diagnosis was done. Of course, major uproar among healthcare providers who were trained, specifically medical doctors. But what they found was that diagnosing it was not as difficult as people imagine. And even training people to understand it isn't as difficult as people imagine. You're not talking about any other disease except those three. Now, what it therefore means is you then decongest the health centers and all. Yes, you do, because if someone's condition worsens, there's a process. You then take them maybe to a dispensary. If it worsens, then you take them to, say, a sub-county hospital like that. It worked. But just ensuring that these health workers who were part of this research process, who were paid by the so-called funders, asking county government to take over these healthcare workers was a challenge.
That's where the problem lies.
No, it's not the problem. It is a problem. It isn't the problem. The other problem also has been the resistance of medical doctors specifically at the very beginning to understand that people who haven't gone to any institution to be trained in healthcare matters can actually look after healthcare. That was a hindrance. There was, I worked in this particular, I worked in HIV and AIDS care and treatment for 17 years. And because of the limitation of resources, this approach to healthcare through just lay people taking care of people, we found what we call a clinical and community health care assistant. We call them a CHA. The biggest fight we had was from the provincial office at that time, before it even became county, saying, they said, no, you can't have people. And we said, they don't treat anyone. They count drugs. They count. They don't just count it. And they do basics. They take the height, the way, basics. There's nothing clinical that they do.
But somehow I can see where the challenge would come. Why would they resist it?
Why?
Because everybody else in the village starts looking at this person as a doctor. And
Yes.
this is the perception from the village. Is
If you sell
this
sausages
person has
and you're
started-
wearing a white lab coat, you will be called a doctor.
Chef.
All right?
You sell sausages.
Did you say chef?
You're
Yes.
called a chef.
So, but in a hospital setting, everyone who is wearing a coat is called a doctor. If
Whether
you're a
you're a lab
lady, you're called
technician.
sister,
Yes.
meaning they assume you're a nurse, even if it is you who
Yeah,
is a
who's a
doctor.
doctor.
So those are perceptions that we live with. The point I'm making is this. The solutions are not difficult to arrive
Precisely.
at. But how do you overcome the resistance? That's really what I'm trying to say. Because the resistance is what hinders it. It's not that we don't know what to do. We do know what to do.
Have you faced the same resistance and challenges
Of course.
in rolling
Of
out
course,
UHC?
Of course, and I liked when Ndu says it sounds pretty basic. What he has said is pretty basic. Empower the very grassroots CHV or community health
Volunteers.
volunteers or extension workers. equip them with a small kit. And that is what we are doing in Nyeri County. We have taken one step because we understand there's that resistance. But it's just not enough for us to say, okay, there's resistance. What
So
are we
we're
going to
gonna
do?
do- yeah.
So we're going to sit here and, and just cry about it. What we are doing in Nyeri County is that we are ensuring through the UHC program, we have a kit for our community health volunteers. We have 2,510 of them scattered across the county. They are known as the village doctors, like you said, and they don't even need to have a white jacket. They're kind of known. They're kind of known, kwa mama nani uko daktari anakaa huko. And when somebody is unwell in the villages, even before they go to the dispensary, that person is called. Ukuja, someone is sick in the house.
Yep.
So these are in my view, these are the most important cogs in the wheel. But they are, number one, untrained. Number two, they have their own issues. They feel they're just volunteering, and for us, like, we pay them.
It's not a job.
It's not a job. So it's just, they could do. They might do it. They might not do it. So number one is train them, equip them, give them a basic kit. For us in Nyeri, we are giving them a kit that has a glucometer, glucose strips, a BP machine. That, for me, even if nothing else was in that kit, that is just enough.
When to start.
And a little notebook, then give them the responsibility of walking door to door, knock, knock, kwa mama Kimani, I am here, I am so and so. I want to begin a small record in this home to take all your blood sugars and all your blood pressures. And I'll leave this card with you. You keep your copy, and I'll go with the statistics of how your blood pressures are doing today.
Right.
These are the only people who can do that. And if we sit here and begin to look at how impossible things are and the resistance, we will not move.
We will not move.
And for us in Nyeri County, we have decided we have a big problem. We must sort it. It is our problem. These are our people.
Here's another question.
Yes.
How long do you intend for them to become volunteers? In this country, we work for money, yeah? We don't do things for free. So you've told me I'm a volunteer, yes. You've given me this kit, yes. Everybody calls me a doctor, yes. When am I going to start earning? If you don't start paying me, then I start providing these services at a fee.
Yes. Of course, we have that.
Is there a nominal amount they're paid?
Yes, usually 500 shillings. It's I shouldn't really say this.
And they're volunteers, or are they student doctors, medical students?
No, these are locals, like locals. They make a little bit of money from their trainings, per diems that we pay, when every time they plug into,
Sitting
training
allowances.
and, so, but we want to call them volunteers. Now, the second step is looking at the capacity of these volunteers and seeing how many of them can then become community health extension workers. Now, these are county
can be absorbed into the system.
Precisely. Now, unfortunately, not all of them are able to be absorbed. When I did the registration for UHC, governor said to me, I want you to take this on. And I said, low-hanging fruit, I'm going to use my 2,510 CHVs. They're going to go around homes registering people for UHC, and we were doing that registration on mobile phones. And then some would tell me they have never used a mobile phone. So I said, we need to also know who are these people,
are we recruiting?
And what capacity do they have, and then how many of them can be upgraded. There's a beautiful conversation that's also been had by counties about CHVs, putting them together into sort of a bureau. A pool where we can have
umbrella
protective umbrella where they can be trained, and we can also agree with counties. If I am going to be volunteering with you 3 times a year, you're training me. I need some basic clinical training on whatever, how to take a diabetes test,
draw blood kind of thing.
Draw blood, some basic sort of training, and this training should be basic for everybody countrywide,
right?
Because there are some CHVs like those in Nyeri and Machakos that are advanced in terms of training. There are some counties that don't even have CHVs. Those ones that are about to pilot UHC. So it's about getting these people, training them, building their capacity. And I hate using the word capacity building because I think it's a little bit
cliche.
It's cliche. But ensuring that they have the capacity to do the basics in terms of healthcare. And like I said, the countries that have succeeded have succeeded because of these people, because of the more outreach than the waiting, sitting and waiting for patients, to come in.
If you paid them, say, a small stipend of 2,000 shillings
A day?
month. No, not per day. It cannot be per day. It's per month. Remember, they are working with people around where they live. It's not as though you ask them to traverse the county.
They're already doing something in that environment.
Yes. They live there.
Right?
Yes. So even traveling is minimized.
Yes.
The 2,000 might cover for a little transport if they have to move a little far. In terms of just making a provision for budgeting, is it doable?
It's. I think the PFM Act, prohibits. If people are not actual employees, and so you have to go about it in a very clever way. Like we pay the airtime, so it's called airtime for our CHVs. It's really not. It's not
remuneration for the work.
Remuneration. If we go remuneration, then you have to regularize them as your county staff. And just how much of a wage bill does that then mean? So it's a little bit of a tricky situation. That's why we're saying if we bureauize them, put them in a bureau, and then we say we are paying the bureau, then the bureau pays the CHV.
Are they primarily youth? Are they quite young people? Could they be rewarded?
It's a mixture.
Could they be rewarded differently? So not financially, perhaps with a training course or with something else. So be innovative about it, as opposed to
that would complicate matters. Keep it simple.
Politicians come in.
Yeah. Just keep it simple. We would like you to do this. We will give you some airtime. And when you come for a meeting, we'll reimburse your transport.
Yes, that's exactly how we would do it.
That's how you do it.
And I can imagine that these people are people who are respected in the community, first of all.
They are.
Unknown.
So they're not the youth.
They're trusted.
Like the DJ saying it's Mama so-and-so.
It's Mama so-and-so who was a former nurse or, whatever. There's something brilliant that is happening in Murang'a County. I sat with the Governor Waria and he said, you know what I've done? I've called all my former nurses and I've told them I want to make you my CHVs.
Brilliant.
I'll give you a little bit of airtime, and these are already people who are passionate about the health space. They're not going to give you the issues, the initial issues of I'm so afraid of an injection. How am I going to do? How am I going to draw blood? These are people who are already, who have been in that space. So even using some of the retired nurses and retired clinical officers, medical officers, helps. With beefing up, especially the extension workers, because that is where that's the make or break for UHC, in my view. Yeah.
Interesting.
So we're talking about rolling this out countrywide shortly. Budget has already been allocated.
Right.
But we are saying the challenge, first of all, is for the counties to prepare themselves for this. Should we be saying that this is something that should happen to every county before you actually receive the money for UHC? First of all, have a way of vetting and checking. Have you done the basics? Have you done the groundwork? Because we're going to waste a lot of time again with all the other 43 counties are going to be piloting it for 1 year.
Yes, I think they have had a whole year. I mean, if they are not ready, they must be. They have a question to.
Maybe they need the money to prepare as well. Some preparation is needed.
Some advance.
Some money is needed. For
money would only be needed to beef up your human capital. But you need no money to connect your dispensaries to water, clean water, or clean and safe water. You need no money. I mean, and if you need money, you have it as a governor, at that very level. If it's electricity, it's a phone call, So there are some that can be forgiven, for instance, if it's human capital. But there are some that,
Even knowing the number of dispensaries you have in your county doesn't need any kind of money, right?
Precisely. And those are the things that they must begin to do. And once, UHC comes on board, there's also dealing with the perceptional issues that now everything is free. You must actively, like for us in Nyeri, we have been actively telling them it's not everything that is free. Sometimes you will go in and drug A, B, C, and D is missing. And don't start saying UHC is not working. Or you go to a hospital and there's so many people and you start saying UHC is not working. In fact, what we say in Nyeri, when we like to see our dispensaries are full, because this tells us one thing. These are ordinarily people who would be feeling unwell, but would be so worried about the cost of care and the cost of drugs that they would sit at home until one day they just collapse and die. So the fact that we are beginning to see people feeling unwell
Walking
and saying,
into-
I want to go to a hospital because I have my UHC card, is for me a great achievement for UHC. I like it when I go and see our facilities are overwhelmed. I say these are ordinarily people who would have sat at home. But today they feel confident to come and seek health care.
Does the county of Nyeri have any association with the National Research Fund or the National Commission on Science and Technology in Akosti?
Not that I know of. Of course, I would have to,
Why
I'd
I
have
mention
to,
it
to
is
ask the
because
health staff about
these
it.
bodies exist, and not many people perhaps know about them or understand them.
Yes.
But the research element within a county is something that would be important. Of course. If the universities aren't taking it up, you do have healthcare workers. All these people are trained. Right. They have an education, and some of them may actually be interested in research. So to beef up the research component, the health component within your county, these two government institutions would actually be very instrumental, and they do have funding.
That's our gift.
Fantastic.
That's our gift to you.
Thank you. The first time I heard about Nakosti was at the tail end of my PhD when the professor started saying, "Do you have an Akosti
approval?"
Approval,
And
and I said,
wondering,
"Nakosti? Who is Nakosti?"
Sounds like Nakada.
I can Nakada. So I can imagine we probably haven't really leveraged on the benefits of that. The truth is, if my research or my just basic desktop and observational research tells me research is not a priority, has not been a priority in the counties.
Do you think it should be?
It must be, of course.
Precisely, because
it must.
If you look at most CIDPs, and if you're a researcher, just go and look at those CIDPs and first remove your academic hat and just read through them. You will see the gaps in terms of research informing decision making and strategy for counties.
Yep.
Because you will hardly hear a reference of research was done and this is the need. Unfortunately, this is
Our
where
time is up.
Oh dear.
Politics
Politics goes before research. So it's about the politics and the research then follows.
It's amazing how research would even help that politics.
Dr. Caroline Kerugu, the Deputy Governor of Nyeri County, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Okay.
And thank you for, of course, in highlighting the success story of UHC in Nyeri County. And thank you for the gift that you brought to us.
The coffee.
You are welcome.
Hold it. I mean,
You always hold it.
CT has not actually had a bit of a sniff of. It's actually
You almost tell me if you like it.
It smells really good.
Eric, I am applying the oldest and most reliable
Have this
method
one.
of dating.